If you're looking for a Justice League show that balances fun, action, and great character writing, Justice League Action might just be the hidden gem you missed. This animated series brings together Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the rest of the Justice League as they take on powerful villains and protect Earth from all kinds of threats. What makes it stand out is how it switches between being lighthearted and funny when it needs to be, but never shies away from getting serious. And most importantly, it gets each character exactly right. The humor feels natural and doesn't mess with the story. The action scenes are sharp and exciting, and even the sillier moments with characters like Plastic Man have a real purpose. No character gets made to look stupid just for laughs or to make the plot work, and the writing treats everyone with respect. One of the best surprises is Superman. He's powerful, smart, and written exactly how he should be. They don't weaken his powers or make excuses for why he can't solve everything. It's rare for a cartoon to handle him this well, and Justice League Action really nails it. So let's jump right into it. And Batman hears someone crying out for help from a nearby rooftop. He drops down into an alley where he finds an old man with a long white beard being attacked by three dark figures with terrifying plant-like faces. Batman jumps in to help, but when he tries to fight them off, none of his usual weapons from his utility belt work against these creatures. Luckily, the old man steps in and reveals he's much more than he appears to be. He transforms into a wizard-like figure and casts a spell that makes the monsters disappear completely. Then he runs off and heads down into the subway system before Batman can ask any questions. Batman follows him through the underground tunnels, dodging passing trains as he searches for the mysterious man. When he finally catches up and confronts him, the old man identifies himself simply as the Wizard. He doesn't want Batman's help, but he does explain why he desperately needs to reach something he calls the Rock. The Wizard tells Batman his whole story in detail. He used to be the guardian of this place called the Rock, where all kinds of evil spirits and demons were locked away in the walls, especially a group called the Brothers Jinn. But then Black Adam, who used to be one of his champions, turned evil and came to take control of the Rock for himself. When the Wizard tried to defend himself by calling on a young boy named Billy Batson to become the superhero Shazam, Black Adam used a small black orb to interfere with the magical power transfer. This left both Billy and the Wizard completely powerless, with Billy trapped as a prisoner and the Wizard banished to Earth along with some monsters that were sent to make his life miserable. Batman really wants to help, but the Wizard just turns around and walks away until he completely disappears. When those three monsters show up again, Batman starts backing away. Then something weird happens. He accidentally goes through some kind of portal, and suddenly he's floating around in what looks like space, except he can actually breathe there. The Wizard appears next to him and explains that this place is called the Void. He points toward this big rock floating in the distance. Batman helps the old guy get over to it, and when they both look through a door, they see Black Adam letting loose a bunch of evil spirits that are now terrorizing Gotham City's streets. The Wizard tells Batman that all they need to do is break this glowing orb to free Shazam's powers, so Batman decides to go get it. While Billy creates a distraction, Batman tries to grab the orb, but Black Adam spots him, and Batman ends up in a fight he can't win against someone that powerful. Black Adam pins Batman to the wall with these magical chains, so all Batman can do is watch helplessly. The Wizard gets knocked down too, and then the brothers Jinn get released onto Earth. But the old man manages to shout to Billy that he just needs to say the magic word with more determination than before to free the powers from that orb. Billy tries twice but fails. On his third try, he finally transforms into Shazam and starts beating Black Adam pretty badly. The Wizard gets back up and uses his magic to send the villain flying to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Shazam gets excited and chases after the demons that escape to Earth. Finally, the Wizard swallows his pride and admits he actually needed Batman's help. Batman reassures him with some surprisingly good humor, which isn't really his usual style. At Stryker's Island prison, the warden walks Superman down a long metal walkway toward a specific cell. He tells Superman that the prisoner inside has been absorbing cockroaches, which sounds pretty disgusting. When Superman goes into the cell, this creature called Parasite immediately attacks him with these long, creepy tentacles that can steal powers. Superman manages to dodge the tentacles and uses his super breath to blow Parasite right out the door. Wonder Woman is waiting there with her lasso, and she quickly wraps it around him, forcing him to give up. A little later, they're all standing outside watching as guards load Parasite into a prison transport truck. That's when Jimmy Olsen shows up on his moped with his camera, filming everything like usual. But then something crazy happens. This flaming meteorite comes streaking down from the sky and smashes right into the prison truck, completely destroying it. The superheroes think Parasite is dead, but then Superman hears something with his super hearing, a heartbeat coming from where the meteorite hit. This massive black creature with glowing red eyes stands up from the crater and says, "Nothing will stop Kalathos now." Then he jumps incredibly high into the air and disappears into the distance. Superman stays behind to help fix the damage at the prison, while Wonder Woman takes off after this Kalathos guy. The creature lands in a park in Metropolis and stabs his flaming sword into the ground. Immediately, lava starts erupting and forming this big mound. Wonder Woman arrives and starts fighting him while Jimmy keeps filming the whole thing, but she quickly realizes that beating him up isn't working very well, so she decides to try using her lasso instead. Kalathos starts talking and reveals that he's one of the brothers Jin. He says he wants to cover the entire Earth in magma to bring it back to how it was millions of years ago. Then he easily shakes Wonder Woman off like she's nothing, but Superman jumps in to take his turn fighting this guy. Superman starts punching Kalathos around, but just like Wonder Woman, he finds it's getting harder and harder to hurt him. Wonder Woman grabs Kalathos' sword and throws it way out into the ocean, thinking that might help. But Kalathos just follows it there and creates another lava mound that turns into a volcano. That's when both superheroes realize something's wrong. They're losing their powers. Jimmy shows up and confirms what they're afraid of by playing back his video footage. It shows Kalathos actually absorbed Parasite back at the prison, which explains everything. The superheroes know they need backup, so they jump over to the volcano. They can't even fly anymore, which is a bad sign. They try fighting the Djinn again, but since he's stolen their powers, he beats them pretty easily and they both go down. Then Kalathos hears someone talking to him, but he can't see anyone until Martian Manhunter appears out of nowhere. The Martian seems oddly confident that he can win this fight. They start battling, and sure enough, Kalathos absorbs his powers too. But when Kalathos picks up his flaming sword, he suddenly collapses and starts screaming in pain. The three superheroes explain what happened. He absorbed Martian Manhunter's weakness to fire along with his powers. To make the pain stop, Kalathos has to eject Parasite from his body, which gives all the Justice League members their powers back. Later, Superman uses his super breath to blow on the volcano and seal it with ice. Batman shows up in Justice 1 and takes both villains aboard. The Batmobile races through Metropolis at night, chasing this dark figure through the streets. Superman calls Batman over a video link and tells him it's actually a disguised Djinn and that he should wait for backup. But Batman being Batman, he insists he doesn't need any help. That's when Green Arrow swings down from above and shoots one of his nets, which wraps around the Djinn and traps it. The creature breaks free pretty quickly though, and runs up onto the rooftops with both heroes chasing after it. Green Arrow gets another good shot in and the Djinn falls down into an alley below. Batman jumps down to face it and they start fighting. The Djinn says his name is Uthul and then lunges at Batman, covering him in this weird mist. When the mist clears, only Batman is standing there. But when Green Arrow comes down to check on him, something seems off about Batman's behavior. They both get in the Batmobile, but Batman starts getting annoyed with Green Arrow's talking. So he actually ejects Green Arrow right into the river and drives off by himself to the Hall of Justice. There, he meets up with Superman and Wonder Woman, who also notice he's acting strange. Batman heads down toward the Power Core room, but Booster Gold drags him into the training area instead and challenges him to a sparring match. Even though Booster manages to throw Batman with a judo move, Batman recovers and beats him pretty badly. When Batman tries to leave, Wonder Woman blocks his way because she's figured out that this isn't really Batman. They start fighting, and that's when Batman reveals that he's actually possessed by Uthul. He throws a smoke bomb and uses the confusion to grab Wonder Woman's lasso and tie her up with it. Batman continues down to the Power Core room where he finds Cyborg working on some repairs. He hits Cyborg with an electric shock that paralyzes him, then starts making the core overload. Uthul, still in Batman's body, announces that he's going to use the Power Core to crack open the Earth's crust, which is part of Djinn's whole plan. Green Arrow shows up again, but his arrows just shatter when they hit Uthul's body, and he gets knocked aside easily. When Superman arrives, Batuthul transforms into this huge winged monster that still looks like it has a Batman theme going on. Green Arrow grabs Cyborg and gets him to safety while Superman and the monster start this long, brutal fight that's tearing the Hall of Justice apart. Meanwhile, Booster Gold recovers from his earlier beating and finds Wonder Woman still tied up. She asks him to untie her so she can help with the fight. The battle keeps going and gets so intense that the entire hall collapses into rubble. Most of the heroes manage to get clear, but Uthul grabs the exhausted Superman and flies high up into the air with him. Wonder Woman spots the glowing power core and all the debris and lassos it. Just as Uthul drops Superman, she hurls the core right at the monster. This causes some kind of violent reaction that forces Batman's body to separate from Uthul. Wonder Woman catches Batman while Uthul, now back to his normal size, falls toward the ground. Even while he's falling, he keeps shouting threats and defiance. Superman stomps on him when he hits the ground, and they tie him up with Wonder Woman's lasso. Booster Gold climbs out of the rubble looking completely confused about what just happened. The other superheroes realize they're going to need a new headquarters now, and they start wondering if they'll all be sleeping in the Batcave until they figure something out. 3 demons called the Brothers Jinn fly toward Kalathos' volcano with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman chasing after them. Batman says they have to stop these demons before they get inside the volcano, and there's no time to call for help. When they land on the island, the smallest demon named Abnagazar points at the superheroes. This makes their leader Nyorlath cast some kind of spell using Superman and Wonder Woman's names, which causes both of them to lose their powers and fall right out of the sky. Batman glides down to catch them and lands on the island, but then the big, muscular demon called Wrath attacks him. While Wrath is grabbing the other 2 powerless heroes, Batman quickly presses this signal device on his belt and then frees his friends with a flying kick. A portal opens up and John Constantine appears, waving for the superheroes to come through. They all enter the portal and end up at Constantine's place, which is called the House of Mystery. Once they're there, Superman and Wonder Woman get their powers back. Green Arrow, Plastic Man, and Swamp Thing show up too because Constantine called them. Constantine is talking in this weird Cockney rhyming slang because someone put a hostile spell on him. Batman explains that the Jinn want to open up the volcano's crack to carry out some plan, though nobody knows exactly what they're planning. Green Arrow comes up with an idea. He suggests that Constantine should swap everyone's appearances to fool the Jinn's power-removing spell. Constantine does this magic trick on all of them except Batman, who leaves to go get more backup instead. Inside the volcano, the 3 demons start chanting a spell that makes the crack in the ground glow brightly, but then they hear Justice 1 flying toward them, and the 5 disguised superheroes jump down to fight them. The Jinn try their spell again, using what they think are the heroes' real names, but it doesn't work because of the appearance swap, so the heroes just beat up the confused demons pretty easily. When Constantine shows up, he changes everyone back to how they normally look. But then they notice the crack in the volcano is now wide open and spewing lava everywhere. Things get even worse when Black Adam suddenly bursts out of the crack, claiming he's more powerful than ever after being trapped in the Earth's core for so long. The Justice League tries to escape by flying up through the volcano, but Black Adam creates this energy field that blocks them. They all fall back down and get tied up with magical bonds. That's when Batman returns in the Batplane with young Billy Batson, who jumps out and transforms into Shazam. Black Adam flies up to fight him, and they have this big battle that ends with Shazam getting beaten down into the volcano. The League members are free now and join him, but before they can work together, Black Adam releases the Jinn and turns them into these huge monsters that attack the superheroes. Superman and Shazam team up to fight Black Adam, but he's still too strong and beats them back. Meanwhile, the rest of the League has this long, tough battle with the monster Jinn. Constantine helps by creating portals that the creatures fall through one by one until they're all gone. Finally, all the superheroes can work together against Black Adam. They each grab him in different ways and throw him toward another one of Constantine's portals, and he disappears into who knows where. Constantine leaves through his own portal, and everyone's left wondering where Black Adam ended up. The Justice League thanks Shazam and makes him an official member. Then they start thinking about building something to replace the destroyed Hall of Justice. Later, with help from Cyborg and Green Lantern, they put this globe-shaped structure on top of the volcano and call it the Watchtower. After a long day of work, Space Cabbie is driving through space on his way to Al's diner to relax. Suddenly, something crashes through his rear window, though it gets automatically replaced right away. When he looks back, he sees Superman sitting in his back seat, clutching his chest in pain. Superman tells him to drive fast because they need to escape whoever's chasing them. Outside, not too far away, this bounty hunter named Lobo and his partner Jonas are riding space bikes and chasing after the cab. Lobo shoots at them with his red, sun-powered blaster, which he's already used to hurt Superman. Inside the cab, the wounded Superman is holding this glass sphere with tiny Mr. Mind trapped inside. Mr. Mind explains that Boss Cack has put a bounty on him because he failed to pay back a loan.
Kind of an awkward time to listen to music, don't you think?
Superman uses the cab's radio to call for backup from the Justice League. He explains to Space Cabbie that he's taking Mr. Mind to League headquarters because they want to hold him on terrorism charges. Space Cabbie keeps driving, dodging asteroids and laser blasts until Lobo and Jonas pull up alongside them. They demand that Cabbie hand over Superman and his prisoner. Cabbie refuses and hits the brakes hard to shake off the bounty hunters, but Lobo throws this negative ion grenade that disables the cab. Then Lobo and Jonas start arguing over who gets the reward money. Lobo gets fed up, ties up Jonas, and sends him flying off through space. He continues chasing the cab by himself, but then something hits Lobo really hard and smashes him onto an asteroid. When he looks up, he sees Hawkman flying toward him with his mace ready. The backup has finally arrived. Hawkman tells Lobo to get out of the area, but Lobo throws a rock right at Hawkman's face. Then he rides off in a different direction with Hawkman chasing after him, which gets him away from the cab. Even though Superman is still weak, he uses his telescopic vision to scan ahead and make sure Hawkman doesn't fall into any traps. He sees Hawkman heading toward a coal mine on an asteroid. There, Lobo ambushes him, knocks him down, and shoots at him from close range. But Superman jumps in front of the blast and absorbs it. The yellow sun rising behind him gives him his strength back, so he smashes Lobo away. Then both Superman and Hawkman get into this long, tough fight with the stubborn bounty hunter while Space Cabbie watches from his cab, which has landed nearby. Inside the cab, the glass cell holding Mr. Mind has gotten damaged, and the tiny worm has escaped. He's hiding behind the dashboard where Cabbie can't reach him. So Cabbie tries a different approach. He starts flattering the egotistical little worm and asks if he can take a selfie to add to his collection. When Mr. Mind agrees, Cabbie blinds him with the camera flash and catches him, but then Lobo comes crashing into the cab and Mr. Mind escapes again. While the two superheroes keep fighting the biker, Lobo tries to make a deal and offers to split the reward with them, but then he steps backward and accidentally squashes Mr. Mind under his boot.
Just enough proof to...
Lobo scrapes the mess off his boot and keeps part of it, then throws the rest to Superman. He rides away on his bike with enough evidence of Mr. Mind's death to collect his reward. Later, on some alien planet, Lobo is sharing a drink with gangster boss Cack and asking for his money. Cack agrees that the remains belong to Mr. Mind, but he demands the rest of him because he knows worms can regenerate their bodies. Lobo starts sweating as a bunch of guns point their lasers at him. Meanwhile, Mr. Mind quickly regenerates but finds himself locked up in another clear cell, this time in the watchtower. Space Cabbie gets his selfie with the worm and then nervously asks the two superheroes for his fare. Superman admits he doesn't have any cash, but Hawkman pulls out a piece of coal from his feathers. Superman takes it and squeezes it into a huge diamond. Cabbie takes the diamond and is almost satisfied, but he's finally happy when he gets another selfie with both Justice League members. A nuclear power plant gets attacked by this weird family that looks human at first. They're shooting green laser blasts from their hands and causing a nuclear meltdown that could destroy half the state. All the workers are running away in panic. At the watchtower, Batman calls other Justice League members for help, but they're all too far away to get there in time.
According to the database, he has the power to control...
However, there's this teenage superhero named Firestorm who's already flying toward the plant. It turns out he actually got his powers from a nuclear accident at this exact same facility. While he's flying there, the professor who's connected to Firestorm somehow fills him in on what's happening. When Firestorm gets inside the plant, the workers point him toward the reactor room. That's where he finds the intruders busy decorating the place to look like a 1950s American family home, complete with old-fashioned furniture and everything. They introduce themselves as the nuclear family, but when they step out of the shadows, Firestorm can see they're actually androids. There are 2 adults, 3 kids, and even a robot dog. When Firestorm carelessly calls them robots, they get really offended. One of them shoots rays at him that blast him right out of the reactor room and into the toxic waste dump outside. Firestorm is determined to handle this situation on his own and doesn't listen to the professor's advice. He powers up and causes this big explosion in the dump's chemicals, but it backfires and knocks him unconscious instead.
We're in my memory. In addition to sharing a body.
While Firestorm is unconscious, the professor can still talk to him and explain the nuclear family's backstory. These robots were originally used to test nuclear weapons until they absorbed so much blast energy that they developed their own personalities and escaped. When Firestorm wakes up, he finds himself captured and hanging over the fuel rod pool. The nuclear family has changed into swimming outfits and tells him their plan. They want to cause a nuclear meltdown by overloading the core, then settle down in the radioactive wasteland that's left behind. This really alarms Firestorm, so he tries to break free from his restraints. But the power surge he creates just makes the nuclear core deeper in the water, and connected to him move closer to overload.
Seeing them jumping in the pool to play Marco Polo.
The professor suggests a plan, so Firestorm tricks the robot dog into jumping into the water. The electrical discharge from the dog causes the core to pump energy into Firestorm, giving him enough power to break free. The nuclear family starts attacking him with their ray blasts while the mother goes to finish overloading the reactor. Firestorm absorbs the rays from the kids and shoots them back, while also creating restraints that grab the mother. Then the father knocks him into the pool and drags him down to the bottom, pressing him against the glowing core to cause the final meltdown. But Firestorm just absorbs all that energy and blasts the android father out of the pool. He forms these giant hands made of water that grab the whole family, then hugs them all together to create some kind of change that we can't see. When Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman finally arrive, Firestorm explains what he did. He miniaturized the androids and put them in a small glass container with a tiny house inside, where they can finally live out their radioactive lives in peace.
We saw the end of your fight. You did very well, Firestorm.
The three superheroes are impressed with how he handled everything and welcome Firestorm to the Justice League. In a swampy area near New Orleans, on the night of a crimson moon when evil magic is at its strongest, Solomon Grundy comes out of hiding and goes to a voodoo queen's grave. He pulls out a diamond called the Star of the Dead, which he uses to raise the dead from a nearby cemetery. The zombies form an army that has to obey whatever he commands. Grundy declares that he's going to rule the world as king of the undead. However, Swamp Thing is also nearby and suddenly rises up to grab many of the zombies, but then he gets into a fight with Grundy, who beats him up badly and leaves him for dead. Grundy heads off to the city with his undead army following behind. Swamp Thing is still able to call for backup, and Batman responds from the watchtower. While Batman jumps down a chute to get to the Batplane, he radios for more help from Zatanna and Constantine. They're caught up in their own battle with Brother Knight and his ghouls, so they say they'll be delayed. But they still have time to tell Batman what Grundy is probably planning. The recovered Swamp Thing arrives in the city where he protects people from the zombies, though he feels sad when the people see him as being just as scary as the undead. Grundy makes his way to the main cemetery, the City of the Dead, where he raises even more undead. He plans to set up the diamond on a statue in the center during the full eclipse of the crimson moon so he can raise the dead worldwide. Batman arrives and attacks Grundy, demanding that he hand over the diamond. But Grundy sweeps him aside and zombies start attacking Batman until Swamp Thing saves him. The monsters get frozen in ice by bat bombs, and Batman says he can use the same method to stop Grundy if he can get close enough. As Grundy goes to place the diamond in position, Swamp Thing grabs him but gets knocked away after refusing to help with the evil plan. Batman tries using batarangs to knock the stone off the statue, but it doesn't work, and he gets caught up in a running battle with more and more zombies. As the zombies swarm over Batman to finish him off, Zatanna appears and uses her magic to scatter them. She mentions that Constantine now has Brother Knight under control. But the diamond, affected by the red moon, starts giving off a purple glow that turns Batman, Zatanna, and the entire population of New Orleans into more zombies. Solomon Grundy is thrilled about this. However, Swamp Thing isn't affected by the magic. He grabs the diamond from far away by stretching his toe out really long, and when Grundy approaches to get it back, Swamp Thing smashes it. This makes the living people gradually return to normal, while all the dead collapse. The battle between Swamp Thing and Grundy continues until Batman steps in and freezes Grundy with a bat bomb. Later, the people of New Orleans celebrate, and now they even see Swamp Thing as lovable instead of scary. The Joker drives through Gotham City's dark streets in his distinctively decorated van, with Batman chasing him in the Batmobile. After some reckless driving, the villain abandons his vehicle and tries to escape on foot as Batman leaps through the air to catch him. But at that exact moment, the Joker gets caught in a beam of light from the sky that drags him upward into some distant object, which then disappears into space.
League. The Joker just left city limits.
Batman contacts Superman and Wonder Woman in the Watchtower to tell them what happened. He explains that the villain has planted a bomb somewhere in Gotham City containing 50,000 tons of super laughing gas that's set to go off at midnight, and only the Joker knows where it's hidden. Superman uses the Justice League's instruments to find the villain and leaves Earth with Wonder Woman in a bronze-colored rocket ship, while Batman stays behind to search for the bomb and calls the Flash for help. In a large spaceship moving away from Earth, the Joker thanks his captor for the rescue, but the captor introduces himself as Emperor Mongol and drags the Joker away to throw him into a large arena in front of a crowd of cheering warriors. The alien tyrant tells the Joker that he must make his men laugh or face the consequences, but when the villain tells a series of jokes, the warriors don't react at all. Mongol gets frustrated and confronts the Joker, who desperately offers an electrocuting handshake using his buzzer. The sight of their ruler in agony finally makes his crude men burst into laughter, but the humiliated Mongol decides to take the comedian away and throw him into space. As the airlock opens, Superman appears from outside and knocks the tyrant back, rescuing the Joker. However, Mongol recovers and gets into a long fist fight with Superman that ends with the superhero getting knocked out and carried off to the arena, while the Joker is left free to escape. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman disables the alien ship's defenses and lands her craft in the docking bay, where a large group of warriors confronts her. She beats them all unconscious before going off to find Superman. In the arena, Mongol prepares to finish off his captive in front of his men. However, Superman quickly uses his X-ray vision to locate the ship's engine room and, while dodging Mongol's attacks, knocks his opponent with one blow through the entire length of the ship.
Joker.
This disables it while the crowd of warriors flees in panic. Elsewhere, the Joker finds Wonder Woman's spacecraft and enters it, but the heroine appears and lassos him before he can take off. She leaves with her captive, links up with Superman, and they head for Earth. Back in Gotham, the Flash is running at super speed, but can't locate the Joker's bomb. Batman tells him to keep looking. After more searching that doesn't work, Batman suddenly realizes that the Joker had left a hint in something he said, and now knows the bomb is in the clock tower. He goes there with only a minute left but can't stop the detonation and barely escapes as the gas expands outward. The Flash is stationed on an opposite roof and whirls his arms to contain the spreading cloud, then Superman arrives to inhale it all before flying out into space. He travels to Mongol's spaceship and blows the gas into it, then returns. Inside, Mongol declares his hatred for Superman, but he and his men can't stop laughing long enough to do anything about it. Later, in Gotham, the superheroes are reunited as the Joker gets thrown into a police wagon. He's the only one who isn't laughing. Batman is driving the Batmobile while Blue Beetle flies alongside him as they chase Kronos, who just stole a small glowing device from a company owned by Bruce Wayne in Gotham City. Kronos is riding his motorcycle and turns to shoot his time bombs at them, but the bombs hit bystanders instead, freezing them in time for a few seconds. The inexperienced Blue Beetle flies ahead of Batman and gets in his way, which earns him some harsh words for his mistake. But they still manage to follow Kronos to his hideout in a building elsewhere in the city. Inside the building, while searching for their enemy, they find newspaper clippings about Batman's first case where he brought down gangster Carmine Falcone. Somewhere else in the building, Kronos uses the glowing device to charge up his time-traveling gauntlet. When Batman eventually finds him, Kronos runs away while mocking his opponents. Blue Beetle makes another mistake when trying to stop him, so Kronos opens a time portal with the gauntlet and goes through it. The two superheroes are a few seconds behind but manage to enter the portal before it closes.
What was that?
They find themselves in the same building, which looks newer now. Batman looks through a window and recognizes the scene, realizing that Kronos has come back to the time of his first case to change events and erase Batman from history. The two superheroes move outside to see the earlier version of Batman go into the warehouse for his confrontation with Falcone, and they follow him while being careful not to be seen and cause a time anomaly. Inside, they see Kronos high up on a gantry, and he's already warned Falcone that the early Batman is coming. Below, the earlier Batman is surrounded by gangsters who are about to open fire and eliminate him. Blue Beetle acts impulsively and attacks Kronos, knocking his time bombs downward so they hit everyone below and freeze them. This threatens to mess up the proper sequence of events, but also gives Kronos another chance to change them. Batman and Kronos get into a long fight, but the villain is able to dodge Batman's punches by using his gauntlet to see 1 second into the future. Batman eventually drops a smoke bomb and hits Kronos suddenly from the haze, knocking him out. Meanwhile, Blue Beetle makes up for his earlier mistakes by adjusting the positions of the frozen gangsters just before they wake up and open fire. Their bullets miss, and the early Batman is able to deal with them by smashing the lights and then taking down the gang in the darkness.
Ready to go back.
Wait.
The ending scene still isn't right, though, because Falcone has gone missing. So the later Batman finds him and knocks him out so that the other Batman can capture him, and he does all this without the two heroes ever spotting each other. When they return to the present, Kronos gets handed over to the police, and Batman surprisingly acknowledges his young companion's contributions. Superman and Wonder Woman, who are also there, are stunned at their colleagues' out-of-character behavior, but they still manage to welcome Blue Beetle to the Justice League. Superman, Batman, and Big Barda battle a squadron of parademons from Apocalypse in a warehouse and eventually eliminate them.
Trace the battalion's energy signature when they deploy.
Big Barda says she detected their arrival along with another entity. Superman spots a dark figure high up and knocks him down into the light. It's Steppenwolf. He seems pleased to see that Superman is in good form, then suddenly opens a travel portal with his mother box and leaps into it, taking the superhero with him. Batman and Barda are left wondering where they've gone. When they arrive on a rocky desert planet, Superman tries to subdue his opponent but finds that his powers are fading away. Steppenwolf points to the red sun in the sky and says he intends to win favor with his master, Darkseid, by being immortalized as the one who defeated Superman. The two continue to fight, but Superman's strength keeps getting weaker, forcing him to retreat and hide. Steppenwolf mounts his astro harness to hunt down his prey, and orders the two parademons who have joined him to search the area. Now powerless, Superman falls back on the scouting skills from his youth to avoid Steppenwolf and manages to eliminate both parademons. To locate their colleague,
It's like home.
Batman and Barda travel through a portal to Steppenwolf's planet, Apocalypse. They arrive outside Darkseid's citadel, deal with a guarding demon dog, and go inside to try to find Steppenwolf's war room so they can search through his records. After fighting their way past parademons, they find the room but still can't locate the planet where Steppenwolf intended to go. Fortunately, Vermin Wunderbar appears and he knows Steppenwolf's plan, but he protects himself with a force field and won't reveal anything. The two superheroes respond by threatening to crush him under a heavy weight unless he tells them where Superman is, and he gives in. After a running battle through a lush landscape, Superman hides in a cave which Steppenwolf is afraid to enter, so Steppenwolf tries to bring down the mountain above the superhero. Superman climbs up through a crevice to avoid being crushed and comes out above his opponent. He jumps down onto the floating Steppenwolf and together, on the astro harness, they fly across the landscape but eventually crash. Superman breaks his leg and Steppenwolf lands in water. The superhero picks up a sparking fragment of the harness and throws it into the water to electrocute his opponent. Later, Batman and Barda appear from a portal and find their hobbling colleague with a hog-tied Steppenwolf. As they all leave together, Superman brags that he was able to achieve all this even without superpowers. In the Watchtower, a horde of dangerous toys has invaded, and Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman do battle with them. When Superman takes the fight into the control room, he finds supposed guard Cyborg playing video games online with Blue Beetle. As the toys are finally being disabled, Cyborg joins the action, but when he tries to interface with a small toy to find out who is behind all this, he fails. No sooner has Superman speculated that it must be the work of Toyman, the villain suddenly appears, mounted in a tall, walking robot. He shoots kryptonite-laced super putty, which engulfs and enfeebles Superman and rockets with knockout gas that cause the other heroes to collapse unconscious. When they awake, they find themselves in their training room, where its holographics have been used to create a video games arcade together with a real-world mock-up of a known street-fighting video game called Blovdi. Brawlers 2 JLA. Toyman has also had their bodies covered with control devices that are linked to his games console, and he tests them to show that he can control their movements. He says that, for his own amusement, he is going to make them fight one another as though they are characters in the game, all while his animated toys look on. Before he can play solo, Cyborg questions his game-playing ability and challenges him to a two-player game which Toyman agrees to, releasing the top half of his opponent's body.
We have to. Dibs on Superman.
Superman!
The diminutive villain immediately selects to play Superman and forces Cyborg, although he considers it a mismatch, to play Batman. As the match begins, Superman and Batman realize that they are reliant on Cyborg's gaming ability, and, although Superman looks like he is going to succeed easily, Cyborg makes Batman pull a kryptonite ring from his utility belt that disables his super opponent. With Cyborg having won a round, Toyman starts a second by selecting Wonder Woman, and after a long struggle, Batman loses, giving Toyman the win.
See what happens when you mess with the master?
The latter unfairly declares himself the overall winner and now retakes full control of Cyborg, sending him to fight Wonder Woman. However, as the superheroine is about to throw the finishing punch, Toyman finds that he has suddenly lost control of the four superheroes. Cyborg points to the small toy that he had formerly failed to connect with and which is now at the base of Toyman's gaming plinth, having disabled the villain's controls. The cybernetic hero explains that he was finally able to interface with it while he was playing the game. Toyman tries to escape, but his walking robot is destroyed by the pursuing superheroes, and when he is finally captured, it is by one of his own toys, controlled by Cyborg. Superman and Wonder Woman, under their aliases of Clark Kent and Diana Prince, are on a date in a Metropolis restaurant. As they exchange stories about their lack of success in relationships, they feel drawn to kiss. This is suddenly interrupted by a commotion in the street, and Clark leaves. Outside, the police are opposed to a dark figure inside a translucent purple sphere, but their shots bounce off it, and when it expands suddenly, knocking over cars, they flee. Superman, now together with Wonder Woman and also Hawkman, confront the figure who tells them he is called Repulse. All of the League's attacks bounce violently off the sphere. Superman burns a hole in the street, and Repulse falls into the sewer and floats away. Superman follows, corners the villain, and, by putting his hand slowly through the sphere, grabs the figure inside, whose appearance changes to that of Lex Luthor. As the material covering Luthor drips from his hand, Superman takes him to the police above. To congratulate Superman, Wonder Woman moves in for a kiss, but despite determination cannot get close. His appearance changes to that of Repulse with the same sphere. As he has become a threat to everyone and everything around, Superman flies off into space and disappears. Later, to seek an explanation, Wonder Woman and Hawkman visit Luthor in his prison cell. They rough him up, and he tells them that Superman has been infested with millions of nanobots that feed on his energy, making the repulsion ever stronger and can only be removed by an immensely strong force. Wonder Woman and Hawkman, with Luthor in tow, take the League's spaceship, Justice 1, and locate Superman near a black hole that has asteroids falling into it. As he flies closer, the repulsive energy begins to drain away. But Luthor escapes in the fighter module, Justice 2, and opens fire on Superman, forcing him down towards the black hole. An asteroid smashes the craft, and Luthor also falls downwards, but Superman brings him inside the sphere as they enter the black hole.
Clark!
Surprisingly, the repulsive force stops them from being crushed, and, as they resign themselves to their fate, Wonder Woman's lasso appears and she hauls them out just as the last nanobots are sucked away. Back in the spacecraft with Luthor in handcuffs, the black hole evaporates in an explosion caused by the nanobots. Later, back on Earth, in a restaurant, Wonder Woman moves to finally kiss Superman but is again repelled.
You really shouldn't have ordered the garlic risotto.
Grimacing, she says it is due to his garlic breath. On Halloween, Kane, our storyteller, tells of the creepy house of mystery, of which he is the caretaker. He says that the house contains all sorts of terrifying things and can just appear somewhere and then vanish later, taking any unfortunate visitors with it. The children in the neighborhood trick-or-treating are in typical Halloween costumes, but Kane points out 4 dressed as superheroes, Batman, Zatanna, Constantine, and Dr. Fate, and says with a crazed laugh that they will experience the terrors of the house. As these four youngsters walk through the streets, they see an odd creature, a mix of boy and cat, being mugged by two older boys. The four intervene and chase off the bullies using authentic superhero moves, and the cat boy tells them that the boys have been storing their loot in an old house. The foursome go there. It is the house of mystery, but the door is locked and the house appears to be empty. Following at a distance, the Catboy is suddenly addressed again by the two bullies who ask for release, whereupon the Catboy magically transforms them into rats and they scurry away.
To just tell an adult.
At the house, Kid Batman kicks down the door and he and the other three enter but cannot see or hear anyone. The Catboy follows them in and announces that they will be staying, magically closing and locking the door. He then causes them to be swept into the interior of the house where they are assailed by its unleashed terrors, vampires, werewolves, etc. The desperate youngsters hit and dodge their way past the monsters and retreat to a room full of stuffed exhibits of more monsters that come alive and attack them. Screaming, they leave and push their way through the fiends outside, flee into another room and lock the door. It is dark and has a large mirror in which they can see dim reflections of themselves as grown superheroes. Kid Zatanna feels that it is a mirror of truth that shows things as they really are, and they consider that they may actually be the real Justice League. The room lights up, showing the Catboy, who sweeps them aside before transforming into Clarion the Witch Boy and his purring cat, Teakle. Kid Dr. Fate and the others now remember that they had seen the house earlier and had intended to ensure that no one would be trapped in it when it disappeared. Clarion tells them that he has transformed them into 10-year-olds to make it easier for him to seize the Helmet of Fate from Kid Fate, and he does so. He declares that he will rule with it as a sorcerer supreme while the superheroes will disappear with the house at midnight. Kid Constantine hurls some red marbles at the helmet that make it hot, and Clarion desperately drops it.
Stop him with a spell.
There now follows a long scramble for the helmet, with the monsters entering to join in. Eventually, Kid Batman retrieves the helmet and gives it back to Kid Fate, who in turn commands the house to release them. The four are ejected outside as the house is about to disappear, and inside Clarion and Teakle run after them, still intending to take the helmet but find the front door locked by Kid Zatanna. At the stroke of midnight, the house is sucked up into a vortex in the sky, almost taking the kid superheroes with it. Now that Clarion is gone, the youngsters reappear in their adult forms. Constantine sees the key to the house on the ground and picks it up, keeping it as though he intends to become the new caretaker. Finally, Kane reappears and reminds us to keep an eye out for the old house and says, as he laughs fiendishly, "We will always be welcome as guests." From a rooftop in Gotham City, a possessed-looking Harley Quinn threatens the citizens below with her newly found magical powers while waving her fool's scepter like a wand. Immediately, Zatanna steps forward and casts a spell that forms a bubble around Harley, reflecting her power back on her and knocking her out. The bubble bounces to the ground, leaving the unconscious villainess lying at the feet of Batman. Zatanna tells her colleague that this must be the work of Brother Knight, and together they go to visit the sorcerer. In another part of town, at a hilltop hall called Brother Knight's Club, the villain holds court over his clientele of demons. Batman arrives and brushes aside the bouncers,
I'm impressed.
while Zatanna neutralizes Ember, who tries to intervene. The two superheroes accuse Brother Knight of collaborating with Gotham's criminals, but he insists he is only giving them what they want and suggests that Batman wants the same, showing a vision of him as an evil, supernatural crime fighter. Batman rejects this, and, having delivered his message, leaves with his companion. Snubbed, Brother Knight picks up a discarded bat weapon, enchants it, and lets it fly off to infect the Batmobile, which is parked outside. There, the two superheroes see the vehicle change its appearance to a menacing demonic caricature of itself with a mind of its own, and it drives straight at them.
Anything he can hex, I can undo.
After dodging it, Zatanna attempts to remove the spell but becomes bound and gagged by its braking chute, dragged into the trunk and locked in. In continuing to evade it, Batman only ends up in one of its seats where, over the video link, Brother Knight tells him that he and Zatanna are doomed. Unable to control the car, Batman starts a fire and is ejected, and thereafter manages to stay ahead of it by moving to the rooftops and swinging from building to building. Eventually, he reaches the house of Jason Blood, where he frantically asks him to call Etrigan. Once he realizes the circumstances, Blood transforms into the demon only for the Batmobile to crash in and land on Etrigan. The demon shrugs it off but is chased outside. Batman then has to stop him from using his fiery breath as it would harm Zatanna, and they both become swept along on top of the vehicle. Batman, in the meantime, is finally able to prise open the trunk to release Zatanna, but is still trapped on the Batmobile. But Etrigan, in a magical ice cream van, intervenes so that Batman is able to get clear and untie Zatanna. The Batmobile and the van face off at opposite ends of a street, and, as they race towards each other, Zatanna casts a spell to move them, Batman and herself, to Brother Knight's club. There, as the vehicles crash together, the Sorcerer, Ember, and the demons similarly move and disappear, thus ridding Gotham of their menace. Only now is Zatanna able to remove the spell from the static Batmobile. Rejoicing, Etrigan in the wrecked van offers ice cream all round, and Batman, frustrated at his inability to repair the similarly wrecked Batmobile, unenthusiastically orders chocolate flavor. In a shopping precinct of Gotham City, the mannequins in the windows turn into supernatural ghouls that smash through the glass and attack the shoppers. Batman and Zatanna combat them while Jason Blood looks on. The latter then changes into the demon Etrigan, who joins the fight. A ghostly figure reaches out behind Zatanna and grabs her hat, and then dematerializes with it. After the ghouls also disappear, Batman identifies the figure as Sorcerer Felix Faust, and Zatanna says that he could use her hat as a portal to other dimensions. She detects that one of her in-hat rabbits is transmitting from the Scottish Hebrides, so Etrigan calls skywards to his master Merlin, who appears and opens a travel portal for them. In a ruined castle, an aged Faust attempts by magic to raise a demon from the hat to grant him youthfulness, but initially only Zatanna's rabbits appear. As the Justice League arrives nearby, the spell finally succeeds, and the demon Ghost rises from the hat as a huge, floating monster. When Faust begs for his reward, Ghost violently injects energy into him that restores his youth. But then the demon goes on a rampage across the countryside, sucking up everything below, and the three superheroes go in pursuit. As Zatanna turns back to deal with Faust, Batman and Etrigan jump on the back of Ghost as it makes its way across the sea to the nearest town. Zatanna finds Faust about to leave and demands the return of her hat, but Faust animates two stone gargoyles and sets them on her, which leads to a lengthy struggle. Once Zatanna smashes the monsters, she overcomes Faust and chains him up, recovering her hat.
Morphnet nam ayub narg fadanas.
She then begins the spell to recall the demon. Batman tries bat bombs and Etrigan demon fire, but nothing will stop Gast. When it reaches the town, Batman jumps down to help the people but is caught in the demon's updraft and has to be saved by Etrigan. As Zatanna's spell begins to work, Gast is drawn back across the sea, and eventually Batman and Etrigan jump off just before the demon disappears back into the hat. Only now is Zatanna able to don her hat again. While the superheroes are distracted, the bound Faust attempts a final hopping escape, only to be tripped by the rabbits.
Thank you, Your Highness.
On Paradise Island, in her throne room, Queen Hippolyta is paid an unwelcome male visit by Lex Luthor in his battlesuit. He blasts her guards away and demands that she hand over the Oculus of the Argo, which can grant a mortal the powers of the god Zeus. She refuses, but lets slip that her staff will point the way to the Oculus. She uses the staff to blast Luthor, but he responds by trapping her under a pile of rubble. As he moves in, Wonder Woman unexpectedly intervenes, knocking him away, and releases the Queen. Luthor trumps this by calling in his ally, the sorceress Circe, who blasts Wonder Woman out into the courtyard, where she becomes squeezed between two giant stone hands. Hippolyta cannot free her but will not bargain for Wonder Woman's life in return for the staff. Luthor and Circe take it by force anyway, open a portal to the fallen realm where the Oculus is, and enter. Belatedly, Batman and Superman arrive and extricate Wonder Woman from the giant hands. Although Hippolyta is aloof towards these two men, she conjures another portal and the three superheroes enter. The fallen realm has the appearance of fragments of landscape floating in space. Luthor and Circe arrive on a fragment with a temple inside of which is the Oculus, a yellow disc. Luthor drapes it across his chest and transforms into an image of the god Zeus, complete with long hair and beard. The Justice League then arrive in the realm, fly through it, and appear in the temple where they challenge the two villains. They are not able to subdue the new Zeus Luthor, who has the powers of a god. Cersei then makes them begin to turn into trees, intending to leave them there as an example. But the superheroes are still sufficiently free to blow Cersei away and get Wonder Woman's lasso into her hand, which she uses to ensnare Zeus Luthor. He then blurts out that he intends to dispense with Cersei after conquering Olympus. The latter overhears, attacks Luthor, making the Oculus fall off, and frees the three superheroes. This proves short-sighted, as the Justice League just capture both of the villains and return to Paradise Island, where they give the staff back to Hippolyta and hand over Cersei.
No chance. No magic will.
Cordial relations only last until Batman, Superman, and Luthor are ordered off the island. In the streets of Metropolis, the citizens flee as a flying saucer hovers above and shoots at them. Brainiac floats underneath it, announcing his intention of adding the city to his collection of miniaturized ones before eradicating the Earth. Looking up at him, Batman, Cyborg, and Vixen are confident they can deal with him, but the alien villain sends a group of flying spherical droids to attack them, and this initiates a lively battle in the streets. The droids adapt to their opponent's abilities and begin to win, but then Superman flies in and destroys some of them. However, when he goes to attack the spaceship, he is blasted back down to the ground by a kryptonite ray. Meeting with Batman there, the pair agree that someone needs to go inside the ship to deal with it, and this is overheard by an approaching Plastic Man who volunteers his services. His two colleagues think he is not suitable.
What can be serious?
And when he shows his inability to deal with the droids, they decline his offer. However, once they have gone, Plas decides on his own plan to disable the ship's miniaturization threat. He stretches upwards from the top of the Daily Planet building towards the spaceship, but is detected and retreats before its guns can fire. Then, taking the form of a duck, he escapes detection among a flock of them, enters the ship through a grill, and passes amongst the collected bottled cities. Meanwhile, outside, Superman beats away at Brainiac, who is protected by a personal force field. But, unharmed, the alien villain orders the shrinking process to begin. In the streets, the worried League and citizens look up to see the miniaturization cannon deploy. In the ship, Plastic Man makes his way to the control room and sneaks past the robots to stop the countdown. Much to his annoyance, they see him as an insignificant threat and eject him outside, allowing the restart of the shrinking process. Re-entering, Plas unconvincingly imitates a robot and attempts to fly the craft into space, but just takes it in circles. Recognized, he gets into a fight with the robots, dodging their shots and destroying them all, but at the expense of wrecking the controls. The ray continues to power up, bathing the city in a menacing red glow, and in radio contact with Batman and Superman, Plastic Man says he cannot either fly the ship or stop the shrinking ray. He decides to sacrifice himself by going inside the ray device to destroy it and bids farewell to the League. The entire ship detonates in the air and disappears to the cheers of the crowds, leaving the Justice League to mourn their loss. Later, as Cyborg and Vixen restrain Brainiac ready for transport in Justice 1, Batman and Superman now regret their earlier dismissal of Plastic Man, but are suddenly overjoyed to see him float down like a giant balloon and deliver all of the Shrunken City bottles to safety.
Subject upgraded to an 87.
The captive Brainiac now honors him as his most potent enemy, and, on hearing this, the ecstatic Plas celebrates with a group selfie. In the Fortress of Solitude, the three teenage superheroes Stargirl, Firestorm, and Blue Beetle are involved in a firefight with the three supervillains General Zod, Faora, and Quexel. They confidently tell the villains that they will put a stop to their activities, but when they try, they get in one another's way, make a mess of everything, and have to dive for cover. They start to bicker over who is to blame for creating this situation. Earlier, they recall, Superman was showing them around. It's the League's secondary HQ, when Stargirl became drawn to an alien kitten which she picked up. They then proceeded to a room where the Phantom Zone projector stands with a control panel with two large buttons. The kitten jumped and hit one of the buttons, causing Superman to be sucked into the Phantom Zone. Firestorm assumed that the other button would reverse this, but instead release the villains. Blue Beetle then pressed both buttons and broke the projector. Back in the present, the teens decide to deal with these Kryptonians before they can get out into yellow sunlight, but the latter have gone to find more powerful weapons in the arsenal, and afterwards start blasting their way through the locked-down fortress.
So their weaknesses are the same as Superman's, which means...
Firestorm is then asked to make some kryptonite, but has to admit that he doesn't know how to because it's alien. As the villains close in, Another firefight starts as the teens attempt to escape through two large closed doors. When they get through and close them, they see the green glow of kryptonite among some exhibits, but there's only a small shard of it. Blue Beetle holds it up to the Kryptonians when they break in, but there isn't enough to affect them, and they leave the teens buried under a pile of rubble. When the heroes emerge, Firestorm begins to analyze the kryptonite, but it seems too difficult to synthesize.
This is totally your last warning.
Stargirl and Blue Beetle follow the villains, who are now outside and flying, and attempt to combat them but are beaten to the ground. As the enemy closes in for the kill, the ice beneath them turns green and the villains collapse. Behind them, Firestorm touches the ground. He has succeeded with kryptonite transformation. Later inside, the teens tell a liberated Superman that they have fixed the projector. The bound villains are sent back to the Phantom Zone while Superman tells the young superheroes to clear up the fortress.
Present course.
In the Watchtower, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg are tracking a meteor that is entering the atmosphere and said to be heading for downtown Blüdhaven near Gotham City. In the background, Batman is more focused on a spider-shaped artifact which he says contains immense power, but when the meteor changes course and makes for the Watchtower, Batman locks away the artifact as the other three go outside. There, Cyborg sees that the fiery object approaching is actually Lobo on his space hog and shoots him down. First Cyborg, then Wonder Woman fight with the villain, but only when Superman intervenes does Lobo cease and make an appeal for sanctuary.
Rumble, I'm here for whoa, what you call?
He does not say why and is roughly manhandled into the Watchtower and strapped to a chair. As the League interrogates him, 5 angry members of the Red Lantern Corps appear outside, making it apparent who Lobo is fleeing from. Superman and Wonder Woman go to speak to them, and their leader Atrocitus demands that they hand over Lobo for stealing some power rings. While the two superheroes go back to check the story, and the angry Red Lanterns bicker, Atrocitus sends Dexstar to break in. The League cannot find the rings on Lobo and are still suspicious of him, but their principles of justice dictate that they cannot just hand him over. In the meantime, Dexstar sneaks through a ventilation duct and opens the door. While the League discusses his fate, Lobo frees himself from the chair, removes the rings from the heel of his shoe, and leaves them where they can be found. The Red Lanterns suddenly enter the Watchtower, find the rings, and accuse the superheroes of deceit and theft.
This time! Atrocitus?
Lobo stirs up a fight between the two groups so that a battle royal ensues, and then, implementing his predetermined plan, slips away and finds the box that Batman had put the artifact in. Breaking it open, he takes out the object, he calls it the Spider Gauntlet, and then produces a key that transforms it into a flaming superpowered glove on his right hand. As the others continue to fight, Lobo appears and uses the Super Gauntlet to blast most of them through the Watchtower's canopy and out into the open, but leaving Batman and Dexstar buried inside under rubble. Superman and Atrocitus agree to combine their team's forces, but their joint counterattack is easily repulsed. However, Batman and Dexstar belatedly join the fray, and while Batman lassos Lobo's arm and gets him to punch himself silly, the cat finishes him with a red power ring blast.
Space hog, when I come get...
Afterwards, before they depart, the Red Lanterns, as an act of gratitude, agree to let the Justice League incarcerate Lobo in a prison at the edge of the galaxy. Firestorm pursues Killer Frost through the streets of Gotham City and flirts with her as she shoots ice up at him. The professor reminds him that she is a villain and suggests calling in Batman. Firestorm, ignoring advice, creates a flamethrower to deal with her, but Killer Frost, absorbing its energy, jams it with ice and it backfires, hurling Firestorm into the distance and knocking him out. In this unconscious state, the professor continues to warn him of the dangers of Killer Frost's ability to turn heat into cold, but Firestorm is confident he can just win her over with his charm. Elsewhere, Batman is stalking Mr. Freeze and has tracked him to a warehouse where there is a large airship, a broad, wingless flying vehicle. When Batman struggles with Freeze, Killer Frost suddenly intervenes and wraps Batman in ice, who is then dumped into the sewer and floats away. Frost tells of her admiration for Freeze, but the latter states his ambition to rule over Gotham City after freezing it by making use of her abilities. He summons 2 spherical drones that knock out Killer Frost with an electrical discharge. Batman frees himself from the ice as he is about to fall into the sea and summons the Batplane to fly to him. As Mr. Freeze gets into his airship and takes off from the warehouse below, Firestorm awakes just in time to see it fly away, and he follows. He sees the vehicle approach a large bridge packed with traffic before it opens fire with a ray that begins to encase the bridge in ice. The professor is again recommending calling for backup when the bat plane suddenly appears, and Batman instructs Firestorm to stop Freeze by entering the airship. Freeze carries on into the city, icing everything in his path, but the bat plane battles with the airship and disables its defenses with EMP weapons. Now, Firestorm passes through the hull of the ship and into the engine room, where he discovers Killer Frost strapped to a device that harnesses her power to work the ray. Freeze detects the intruder and sends his drones to deal with him. Meanwhile, Batman ejects from his plane and smashes through the ship's windshield to become involved in a fight with Freeze, while Firestorm dodges the drones and eventually destroys them. He damages the airship in the process, and it begins to fall towards the city. While he releases Killer Frost, Batman overcomes Freeze and takes the controls, but cannot avert a crash. However, Killer Frost appears and creates a runway for the craft to slide down to the ground, and Firestorm synthesizes a giant baseball glove that brings the airship to a stop. Freeze recovers and aims his gun at the heroes, but Frost encases him in ice. As Firestorm naively turns to thank her, she gives him a black eye and runs off. Still harboring the delusion that she has a soft spot for him, he goes off to unfreeze Gotham City.
I'd like to believe that wherever she may be,
while Batman hands over the frozen Mr. Freeze to the police. As Lex Luthor in his battlesuit rampages through Star Labs, he brushes aside the guards who have fired at him, but first Batman and then Wonder Woman intervene to try to stop him. Luthor distracts them by causing the roof to collapse, flying through the hole he has made to escape. Outside, up in the air, he encounters Superman and, as an apparent distraction, fires a missile that starts to spread a green gas across the city below. Superman flies down and sucks it all in without suffering any ill effects, and then flies out into space and exhales it.
Back so soon?
He comes back down to where Batman and Wonder Woman have cornered Luthor, but becomes dizzy and collapses onto the hovering Batplane. Luthor flies off as Wonder Woman cradles the unconscious Superman. Having taken their stricken colleague to the Watchtower, Batman and Wonder Woman join Atom and Red Tornado to monitor Superman's state. Red Tornado observes that his vital signs are dipping, and Atom discovers that this is due to a swarm of nanobots that have infested Superman's heart and are feeding off his special solar energy. Further, there is also a Queen bot present that is rapidly reproducing more nanobots. Atom says that they will have to go inside Superman's body to surgically remove the infestation.
And she wasn't a good mother either.
Batman and Wonder Woman don suits and helmets to enable them to survive inside Superman's body, and Atom says they can shrink for 30 minutes. Using discs like the one on Atom's belt, the three shrink down and enter Superman's nostrils, where Batman decides they should enter the bloodstream via the sinuses and the lungs. Eventually, in the heart, they see the nanobots surrounding the machine that collects the energy and do battle with them, destroying them. Further on, they encounter the Queen, who turns and flees, while the threesome go in pursuit. Elsewhere, Luthor, remotely following the progress of the nanobots,
Tiny assistance.
notices that Superman is recovering. Flying over to the Watchtower, he bursts in and, after a fight, disables Red Tornado. He finds Superman's unconscious body and attacks it with a kryptonite ray. Detecting this, Atom decides to return to deal with Luthor. In the lungs, Batman and Wonder Woman destroy the Queen after a lengthy struggle and leave it to be digested by the immune system and, with only seconds left, make for the mouth. Atom, flying out of the mouth, knocks the ray gun out of Luthor's hand and fights him, but Luthor gains the upper hand and prepares to shoot him. Behind, a recovering Superman sits up, and, when he sneezes, Batman and Wonder Woman fly out at full size and flatten Luthor.
What's going on here?
As the dazed Superman wonders what has been happening, he is handed a handkerchief. Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Arrow are battling against the terrorists of Hive in a warehouse. When one of them is ensnared by the lasso of truth, he begins to reveal that they have planted a cobalt fusion bomb in Metropolis, but is knocked out by gas from his radio device before he can mention the location. Speaking over the radio, the Hive Master tells the superheroes that they will not discover the bomb before it destroys Metropolis. Later, in the Watchtower, Batman hopes to trace the radioactive signature of the bomb as he and Wonder Woman converse with Superman on New Genesis, telling him that his assistance is not required. An unrelated thing then happens when a force outside the Watchtower passes through the canopy to reveal itself as Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom and war, accompanied by her owl, Bubo. She addresses Wonder Woman and announces that in recognition of her achievements, she is to abandon her current life and become the new goddess of truth. Wonder Woman accepts but says that she must deal with Hive first, and Athena decides to tag along until she is ready. Batman is still trying to locate the bomb on a scanner when Athena and Bubo irritably interrupt and show the location. Smoothie Green Arrow offers his services to Athena, but is told the job of archer to the gods is already taken by Artemis.
You sure you know how?
In the League's aircraft, the three superheroes, together with Athena and the Owl, approach the bomb's location. Hive Master tells them over the radio that they are too late and launches missiles that shoot down the aircraft. They all eject in time, and while Wonder Woman saves civilians from the crashing plane and a falling crane, Batman and Green Arrow take out the Hive defenses and rescue Athena. They go into a warehouse, but Batman still cannot pinpoint the bomb, so Athena and Bubo have to show the way. Also, to support them, Athena transforms into the goddess of war, and Bubo becomes her bow. The group burst into Hive's underground center and become involved in a firefight with a force of the Fanatics, finally eliminating them all.
That. Really?
Green Arrow continues to try to impress the goddess with his archery, but to no avail. Then the Hive Master appears in a walking combat machine, which shoots a sticky substance like honey at the heroes. But, after a lengthy struggle, Wonder Woman breaks open the machine and grabs the villain. But the latter fanatically triggers a 30-second countdown for the bomb, which is now finally revealed. Wonder Woman throws him into the sticky mess and leaves him, while she helps the others gather up the mercenaries that they have just battered and take them into an escape vehicle. Faced with being destroyed by his own bomb, Hive Master loses his nerve and shouts out the code to stop the countdown. Athena congratulates Wonder Woman on her success, realizes that it is more important for her to continue her current work, and abandons her plan to make her a goddess. The Penguin is in his lair and rages against Two-Face, who has stolen the proceeds of a heist that had been intended to be split between them.
It could be tricky. Batman's got him with the police.
Penguin speaks to someone on the telephone and instructs them to bring Two-Face to him alive to get the money, but warns that Batman currently holds him. The other person reassures that he will bring him Two-Face and identifies himself as Deadshot. Batman has Two-Face held in a motel room and needs the support of reliable members of the Justice League, but has to make do with Plastic Man and Firestorm instead. Batman already knows Deadshot's plan and intends to capture him by using a double of Two-Face as bait and also leaking details of their movements. After some trial and error, Plastic Man manages to imitate the criminal, and he and Batman drive away in the Batmobile, leaving Firestorm to guard the real Two-Face. The latter continually bickers with the two opposite sides of his personality, and the bad side asks gullible Firestorm to open a window, which he does. Having already freed himself from his restraints, Two-Face hits Firestorm from behind, knocks him out, and escapes. As the Batmobile speeds along the streets, Deadshot shoots at it with an RPG from a rooftop and misses, but a second shot causes the Batmobile to career out of control and crash. Batman and Plastic Man abandon it and run through the streets pursued by Deadshot. In a warehouse, Deadshot corners the pair and comes to blows with Batman, and the latter is temporarily overcome, allowing Deadshot to close in on the supposed Two-Face. When he shoots a tranquilizer dart, Plastic Man allows it to pass through a hole in his chest, and with the deception exposed, Deadshot flees, throwing a bomb. Batman returns to save his colleague from the blast. He then learns from Firestorm of the escape of the real Two-Face. Having taken a police car, Two-Face speeds his way to the train station where the stolen loot is hidden in a luggage locker, but Deadshot hears the siren and sees him from a rooftop with his special eye, and follows. As Two-Face, now in the station with the money, is hit by a tranquilizer dart, the shooter, Deadshot, is intercepted by Batman, who also knew where the loot was, and a lengthy struggle ensues. Successively, Plastic Man and Firestorm intervene to save Batman but are swept aside and the combat continues. As Deadshot retrieves a dropped gun and aims to finish Batman, the gun transforms into Plastic Man, who wraps around the villain and captures him. Outside, as both villains are taken away by the police, Batman faintly thanks Plastic Man and leaves.
We can work together again?
If I need a
Firestorm remains and is curious about his colleague's new ability to change appearance, but hurriedly exits when he realizes that Plas may not be wearing clothes. Near the North Pole, a tank-like vehicle approaches under the ice with only a periscope showing above. Inside, Brainiac views the Fortress of Solitude as his objective and says that it contains something that he covets. He then sees the door of the fortress open and what appears to be Superman fly out and into the sky. The alien villain releases a rapidly whirling object that emerges from the ice. It is called B3 and looks like a woodlouse with tentacles, and intercepts the flying figure, cutting it in half with a tentacle. As the tank flies up out of the ice to view the corpse, the Superman figure is revealed to be an android guard. Inside the fortress, Superman, Atom, and Cyborg approach the bottle containing the shrunken Kryptonian city of Kandor and its people. Atom asserts that it should be possible to restore it to full size by using his white dwarf tech. As a preliminary, however, he needs to shrink Superman so that he can go inside to collect samples of material for tests. Because Superman will not have any powers in Kandor, he is fitted with a jetpack just before Atom presses a button on a machine, causing Superman to reduce down to tiny size. The latter flies down into the open bottle before Atom reseals it. Inside Kandor, Superman lands and meets the Kandorians with their leader, Chancellor Al-On. Brainiac, accompanied by the tentacled machine, carries the top half of the android and uses it to gain retinal scan access to the fortress door. More Superman androids bar the way but are destroyed in a battle with Brainiac's machine. The villain shoots his way into the room that contains the bottled city and demands that it be handed over. Cyborg attempts to bluff by claiming it is a different city, but Brainiac just disables him with an electric shock bomb, shoots Atom, who vanishes, and takes possession of the bottle. Superman, from inside, can see Brainiac and takes off again with his jetpack to try to return and deal with the villain. Not seeing Superman anywhere, Brainiac returns to his tank. Paralyzed Cyborg despairs, but Atom then reappears, having shrunk to avoid the ray blast.
You could get me on my feet, I just fall on my face.
Cyborg is only recovering slowly, but Atom gets an idea to regain the bottle while viewing a disabled android guard. As Brainiac speeds through snow and ice in his tank and daydreams about completing his tiny city collection, he detects what appears to be Superman approaching behind. When the turret is suddenly ripped off, he can see he is opposed by Atom, who is controlling the body of an android from where its head had been. Android Atom wrecks the tank, causing Brainiac to make off on foot with the bottle, while his tentacled machine becomes involved in a lengthy struggle in the snow with Atom, who wonders where Cyborg is. When Android Atom throws the machine, it just misses Brainiac, who drops the bottle, and that gives Atom the chance to remove the stopper, thus releasing Superman. Though still small in size, Superman regains his powers, disables the tentacled machine, and knocks Brainiac into a stupor. Before the Kandorians freeze, the stopper is put back in the bottle. Finally, an eager Cyborg flies down, but then realizes he has missed the action. Gotham City is being overrun by rampant, animated, monstrous vegetation. Vixen leaps through the undergrowth attempting to cut it back, but it grows faster than ever. She radios Batman requesting his help, but he replies that he is busy working on an antidote, but doesn't say for what, and will send backup. However, no sooner has Superman arrived than he is gripped by powerful tendrils that he is unable to break free from. They are seen to belong to Swamp Thing, who emerges from nearby water. It confirms that Poison Ivy is to blame, but when he is asked to desist, comes under mind control and continues to attack Superman and Vixen. Then Firestorm flies overhead, and, while Chat Eiley asking about a blind date he knows Swamp Thing had, the latter reveals that it was a trap by Poison Ivy, who is able to control plants like him.
Fire!
Firestorm. I don't know how, but...
Wait, didn't you have a...
As he declares that she has to be stopped, he again comes under mind control, and we see that it is Ivy who is the controller. She states that the two together will rule Gotham City. Swamp Thing then attacks Firestorm, who flies off before the tendrils can reach him. The professor then suggests that Firestorm should use nuclear fire to surround Swamp Thing and dry him out. Firestorm tries this, and Swamp Thing collapses, enabling Superman and Vixen to break free. At this time, Ivy makes a televised broadcast to the citizens of Gotham, telling them that she and her husband will reprogram the city's biology to make a new Garden of Eden for her to rule. We then see her best friend, Harley Quinn, running around the city and throwing gas bombs that transform the plants into monstrous mutants. Harley goes to get more bombs from Ivy, and she is told to bring back her husband-to-be, evidently Swamp Thing, for his wedding. Elsewhere, Batman is gazing at a screen with a map and speaks to Superman, telling him he has traced poison ivy to a specific building, and Superman sends Vixen on ahead to the place. She sees Harley Quinn leaving with more bombs and follows, knocking her over. Harley throws a bomb which transforms a plant into a monster that grips Vixen tightly. Then Harley notices Swamp Thing nearby being roasted by Firestorm and knocks down the ladder with a boxing glove on an extending arm before throwing a bomb that changes Swamp Thing into an even more monstrous version of himself. As she knocks Firestorm away, Harley reminds Swamp Thing of his wedding, and he, under mind control, leaves. Vixen breaks free and chases Harley, and they end up at the zoo where Harley seems to keep her pet hyenas. Vixen, as a lion, chases them back into their cage along with Harley and later hands her over to the police. Firestorm radios Batman, who is speeding through the overgrown streets in the Batmobile, and asks him about the formula. Batman replies that he only has one sample to use and needs to find poison ivy. The Batmobile becomes trapped by vegetation, and Firestorm arrives to free Batman from the vehicle. As Batman goes off to use his formula, Firestorm transforms the Batmobile into a giant hedge trimmer and flies it through the vegetation to shred it. As Ivy plans her wedding arrangements, Superman appears and moves to take her captive, but Swamp Thing springs up from the undergrowth to grip him. There follows an extensive fight between the two, but Superman is subdued. Batman enters but is caught in the plants and drops the formula. Finally, when Firestorm appears in the customized Batmobile, a tussle with Swamp Thing causes the formula to fly into the air, where Superman hits it with heat vision so that the contents empty over Ivy. With her ability to control plants blocked, Swamp Thing is released from her direction, and Gotham City gradually returns to normal.
Yeah, here's the deal. I'm sorry about that, but you told me to improvise.
Firestorm offers to restore the eccentric-looking Batmobile, but Batman declares that he likes it the way it is. In space, Cyborg in Justice 1 is collecting up drifting crew members who have been ejected from a hijacked spaceship, called a space train as it is made of flexing segments like carriages. Batman, wearing a force field generator belt so he can breathe in space, is walking along the outside of the train and finds an airlock which he opens. Passing inside, he is confronted by two alien-looking thugs with guns, but disposes of them in a fight. Entering the next compartment, he discovers the alien villain Kanjar-Ro, who holds a device with a glowing ball on the end, and who just tells Batman to mind his own business. Batman tells him that the space train holds items stolen from the Justice League, but Kanjar-Ro suddenly disappears and then reappears behind Batman, knocking him out. The latter is dumped into space but calls on Cyborg to pick him up. Later, Cyborg says that the space train is traveling too fast to be caught, so Batman decides that they need extra help. Cyborg, however, is only able to locate the reluctant space cabbie, but an offer of a bigger fare and tip sways his mercenary nature. Accompanied by his droid called Jack, Cabbie intercepts the space train in his cab. Batman insists that he get inside the ship, so, wearing one of the special belts, Cabbie jumps onto the outside of the ship, leaving the droid to drive the cab. Breaking in through an airlock, he sees Kanjar-Ro and hides. Batman tells him by radio that there is something in a container in the cargo that will help, so he goes to the hold. Opening the container, he sees a frozen human figure dressed as a cowboy, whom Batman says is Jonah Hex, one of the most dangerous men in the universe. Cabby gets hold of a device that, when placed on the frozen figure, defrosts it. Jonah Hex comes to life and starts asking questions. He talks like Clint Eastwood. Cabby allows Batman to explain to Jonah that his frozen body had been found by the Justice League and was being transported to their headquarters. Jonah then looks through other containers and finds force field belts, magnetic boots, and a pair of ray pistols, the last of which he keeps.
Yeah, here's the deal. I'm sorry about that, but you told me to improvise.
Accompanying Cabby through the ship to find Kanjar Row, Jonah guns down the villain's henchmen, but, unable to get past a force field, the pair use the belts and boots to spacewalk along the ship's outside. They re-enter at the front of the space train and search the control room for the main villain. Sensing activity behind him, Jonah swivels and shoots, hitting the invisible Kanjar Row and breaking his cloaking device so that he suddenly appears. Using the ball-like object, the villain shoots back and disarms Jonah, closing in to finish him and Cabby. But the cowboy pulls the communication cord, causing the train to judder to a sudden halt, and Kanjar Row is hurled onto the controls and knocked out. Cabby informs Batman of the capture of the target just as an alarm sounds. Cabby can see that the space train is diving into a nearby star, so he takes the controls and uses his driving skills to pull up and away. He makes for a nearby planet and makes a bumpy landing in a desert landscape. The Justice League arrives, and as Cyborg takes the bound Kanjar Row into Justice 1, Batman offers to return the cowboy to his own time. Jonah Hex, sitting astride an alien two-legged horse, looks around at the western-like setting and feels at home. He chooses to ride off into the sunset. At night, the soldiers of Hive swarm in the streets of Metropolis while Hive Master, from his bipedal vehicle, appeals to the citizens to submit to him. Batman and Wonder Woman fight them and seem to be winning until the fallen soldiers suddenly revive and attack again. As Booster Gold flies over, Batman calls out to him to intervene, but Booster is distracted by the strange sight of a fire hydrant vanishing and becomes entangled in a net. His own? Unimpressed, Batman improvises and throws a batarang at Hive Master's vehicle, disabling it, which causes the Hive soldiers to run, pursued by Wonder Woman.
What was that?
What? So now it's my fault?
Batman turns and issues a stern reprimand to Booster, but while he is doing this, events around them begin to slow down and stop. Seeing Wonder Woman and the Hive soldiers frozen in the street, Booster explains that it must be a time flow interruption called a time fissure, and is also the cause of the disappearing fire hydrant. As he further explains that Batman is not affected because he is inside Booster's temporal bubble, they come under attack from flying creatures with a broad, flat shape, like manta rays. Booster says these are Time's antibodies, and to escape ever-increasing numbers of them, he opens a portal and takes Batman to his secret base, Vanishing Point. There, Booster's droid, Skeets, takes a picture as Batman staggers from the effects of the journey. Moving into the heart of the place, Booster sits down in front of a display to search through time for the cause of the frozen events. He identifies it as a time-eating monster called a chronovore that stores stolen time energy in a crystal that only has to be removed to restore the time flow. Batman is stunned by the realization that Booster is more capable and responsible than he had ever realized. They now exit through the portal entrance to re-emerge in the street where they had been but at a slightly earlier time.
What are you doing? Shh.
Bats,
Hiding behind a bush to avoid their other selves, they emerge to be confronted by the chronovore and are attacked by it and the antibodies. After a long struggle, they are no closer to defeating them, and Batman defers to the expertise of his colleague. Booster decides to shrink the bubble to increase his power while leaving his partner outside it to return him to the frozen point in time and with no memory of what has happened. Batman fades away, praising Booster as a person. Fighting his way through the antibodies, Booster penetrates the chronovore's body and swims through its watery interior, suffering extreme aging. As his body shrivels and his hair and teeth fall out, he sees the crystal and reaches out to grip it, and when he does, causes a violent reaction that changes the scene. Fully restored, he finds himself in the street in front of an irate Batman who continues to berate him. When this is finished and Batman and Wonder Woman leave, he wanders off sadly, looking at the picture taken by Skeets, and sighs for the better time when he and Batman fought as a team.
The glorious invasion of Earth.
A fleet of spaceships travels through space. On board one of them, a screen shows the face of the godlike Darkseid, who issues a command to his lieutenant, Daysod, telling him to open a boom tube to begin the invasion of Earth. They are being tracked, however, by Wonder Woman and Hawkman in Justice 1. They despair that Darkseid's fleet is too far ahead to be stopped, but Superman, flying alongside, informs them that he will intercept them and flies off. As the fleet is entering the boom tube, Superman smashes his way into the lead ship, causing the parademons to be sucked out. Proceeding through the ship, he encounters Desaad at the mother box used to control the boom tube and pushes him aside. Superman fiddles with the cube, causing it to change in some way, which results in the fleet disappearing away to a different, unknown destination. Kanto paralyzes and captures him with a kryptonite ray. Elsewhere in space, Space Cabbie is taking a break for a meal while he watches a commercial for the rival passenger service of Roxy Rocket. As he denigrates her, he receives a call for a cab and accelerates away. The destination, however, is soon shown to be Apocalypse, the home planet of Darkseid. As Cabbie lands and waits there, Darkseid appears, gets into the cab, and gives the destination as a moon of a particular planet. When Cabbie, familiar with the place, naively tries to dissuade his passenger from going there, Darkseid menacingly tells him to get going. At the destination moon, Darkseid pays and leaves, but Space Cabbie chases after him with the receipt. Searching about, he sees Darkseid's wrecked space fleet lying around and goes inside one of the ships to see Superman being contained and tortured by Desaad, watched by Darkseid. When the latter asks about the state of the boom tubes, Kanto replies that their whole system has been infected with a virus and only Superman will know the code to remove it. Just then, Cabbie is discovered and has to flee back to his cab where he intends to inform the Justice League. But Darkseid stops him from driving away. The latter insists that he give his assassin, Kanto, a ride back to Apocalypse. As Cabbie drives, Kanto asks for a detour to a planet that is obviously intended for disposing of his victims, but Cabbie bluffs him into going to another planet that sounds equally suitable. Once there, in a swampy jungle area, they get out and Kanto pulls a gun on Space Cabbie, but the latter is grabbed by the local vegetation and seemingly hauled away to his doom. Then Kanto is also gripped by plant tendrils, but when Cabbie is released, the vegetation reveals itself as Swamp Thing, and it becomes clear that they are on Earth. Wonder Woman and Hawkman appear and praise Cabbie for leaving his radio on so that they could follow him. While Wonder Woman takes Kanto to prison, Space Cabbie drives the other two superheroes back to where Superman is. Superman is being tortured with a kryptonite force field while being interrogated by Darkseid to reveal the code. Cabbie's vehicle then smashes through and into the spaceship, and, while Hawkman fights the parademons, Swamp Thing overwhelms Darkseid with vegetation growth until Desaad starts to dry him out with a ray blast. But, finding a source of water, Swamp Thing grows huge and binds Desaad, then turns to help with the parademons. This allows Cabbie to help Superman by getting his droid Jack to hack into the torture machine and remove the kryptonite. As Darkseid breaks free of Swamp Thing's tendrils, the liberated Superman batters him to the ground and then beckons to the controlling mother box from which Adam then emerges, having been the source of its problem. With the mother box now working, Superman opens a boom tube and kicks Darkseid into it, sending him to a remote planet. Later, as the Justice League rounds up Desaad and the parademons into Justice 1, Superman offers Space Cabbie a ride, as his cab was damaged in the fight. Cabbie declines, saying that the droid will fix it, but after the League have left, finds that he is stranded. He is ignominiously forced to call on Roxy Rocket for a ride, but when she arrives, she says that she will also have to stop off at a remote planet to pick up a passenger called Darkseid, much to Cabbie's horror. A flying transport lands outside the United Nations building in Metropolis, and Gorilla Grodd with an army of ray-gun-armed gorillas disembarks. Grodd intends to abduct the UN delegates as an initial step in the gorilla conquest of the world. Batman and Superman, accompanied by the novice Stargirl, rush to the rescue. Stern Batman lectures the young superhero on being efficient and ruthless, but friendly Superman encourages her to relax. As the gorillas scale the UN building, the superheroes intervene, and after a fight, round them up into a makeshift cage of UN flagpoles. Stargirl shouts defiantly at Grodd, despite having contributed little to his capture. Then, to greatly complicate matters, the imp Mr. Mxyzptlk chooses this moment to pop out from the fifth dimension. Superman states that he will only disappear again if he says his own name backwards. Mxyzptlk is immediately annoyed by Stargirl's inability to recognize him, and when she plays with his name by suggesting he is mix-eyed up, he recognizes a plan for mischief. Releasing the gorillas, he causes the minds of the three superheroes to transfer to each other's bodies to mix them up. Although the three realize what has happened to them, they still decide to deal with the gorillas, but encounter difficulties with their new circumstances. Stargirl in Superman's body cannot control her flight, strength, and heat vision. Superman in Batman's body cannot work the bat equipment or get used to not being super. Batman gets carried away with Stargirl's youthful athleticism. Grodd sees this as an opportunity to crush the Justice League and the battle continues, but the superheroes realize that they cannot win and decide instead to deal with Mxyzptlk first. They need backup, and Stargirl for some reason suggests Firestorm, whom she had earlier described as an atomic guy with two personalities. Batman radios for what he calls Bravo Squad and asks them to bring Firestorm. Grodd claims victory while his gorillas surround the heroes and prepare to fire. Then someone shouts an insult to Grodd, and he turns around to see a crowd of Justice League heroes, including the garrulous Firestorm. The others are Flash, Martian Manhunter, Cyborg, Plastic Man, Shazam, and Zatanna. As Professor Stein admonishes Firestorm for his attention-seeking behavior, Mxyzptlk responds by mixing up these extra bodies and minds too. This leads to even more chaos for the League, and although they are no closer to subduing Grodd, as Mxyzptlk laughs uncontrollably up in the air, he suddenly hears Professor Stein talking to him as though he is in his head. The spare personality of Firestorm has apparently found a new home. The professor belittles him by suggesting that he has multiple personality disorders and states them as incomprehensible technical terms. Angry, Mxyzptlk repeats them back, denying that he has them, but the last is just his name spelled backwards, and so he disappears. The personality transfers caused by him are all reversed, and the League returns to normal. Grodd finally surrenders when he sees the restored Justice League assemble in front of him. When Stargirl is then commended for her insight into Firestorm's usefulness, she admits coyly that she just wanted to meet him Batman, and Stargirl are involved in a fight with some thugs in a warehouse, but Batman can see that his colleague is not fully focused. As she checks her smartphone, Stargirl announces that she has a babysitting appointment to meet. Batman seems quite glad for her to go and carries on with the fight.
Bye!
Stargirl flies to the appointed house but knocks on the door in her everyday alias of Courtney. The owner, Mr. Anderson, a collector of antiquities, answers the door. He introduces his young son, Timmy, and then leaves to go to an auction. Timmy decides that he wants to play hide-and-seek and runs off, leaving Courtney searching for him. Elsewhere, at that moment, a window opens, and in glides Clarion the Witch Boy with his cat, Teakle. He declares his intention of finding and taking the Magdalene Grimoire, a book. Timmy runs up and asks him to play hide-and-seek, and to get rid of him, Clarion asks him to hide and count to 8,000. Once Timmy has gone, the Witch Boy hears Courtney coming and sends the cat to search for Grimoire while he transforms into a duplicate of Timmy. Courtney finds Timmy searching amongst books and throwing them around. To distract from the cat that is also there, Timmy says that he is hungry, so Courtney takes him to the kitchen. While there, The cat brings in objects for Timmy to see, but out of sight of Courtney, until the latter eventually spots it with an artifact and chases it. In another room, Courtney corners the cat and tussles with it, knocking a book onto the floor.
After 5 centuries.
The fake Timmy arrives and identifies the book as the grimoire, but when Courtney grabs him, he breaks free and transforms back into Clarion. Picking up the book, he casts a spell from it that projects flames at Courtney, who dodges out of the room. She then calls Batman in the Batmobile, showing him a picture of Clarion, and he tells her he is on his way. Later, Courtney, now in her Stargirl costume, answers the door to let in Batman accompanied by John Constantine and leads them to where Clarion is. When Stargirl tries to attack him, the cat briefly changes into a feline girl and steals her staff. Clarion studies the book and surrounds himself with a transparent barrier. Constantine's attempt to pass through it fails, and Clarion responds with a series of spells to open portals that knock the 3 superheroes about. The real Timmy now appears behind Clarion, but when the latter blasts him away, Constantine is spurred to use a more effective spell that breaks the barrier. As batarangs fly in his direction, Clarion opens a portal to deflect them, and the tentacles of a monster grip Batman and Constantine. As Stargirl goes to hug Timmy, she recovers her staff just as the feline girl springs at her. She knocks the girl aside and levitates the book over to Constantine. Batman stuns the monster with bat bombs, which releases the 2 heroes, but Clarion blasts him with a spell. As Constantine cannot match the witch boy's magic, as a ruse he hands back the book so he can punch Clarion and regain it. Casting a spell from it, Constantine causes the portal to close, with the tentacles dragging in Clarion and the girl. He then casts a final spell to tidy the house. Later, Timmy tells his skeptical father that Batman has given him a smartphone, presumably Stargirl's. Also, outside, after Batman and Stargirl depart, Constantine conjures a portal to reveal some devilish temptresses and disappears into it. Green Arrow is taking a break and heading back across the Bermuda Triangle in his plane to the island where he learned his superhero skills. Batman contacts him on the radio to ask him to locate Booster Gold, who has gone missing somewhere in that area, and Green Arrow agrees to help. Batman, as usual, denigrates Booster as a person and, in particular, his penchant for making money.
This is one serious typhoon.
Approaching the island, Green Arrow flies into a canyon to avoid a storm but is suddenly confronted by a prehistoric pterosaur which smashes through the windshield. Shaking it off, he follows it, but the plane is caught in the jaws of a giant mosasaur rearing up out of water. As the plane is destroyed, Green Arrow falls into the water but hauls himself onto dry land only to be confronted by a pack of raptors. They chase him along the ground, but he escapes by swinging through the trees. Coming onto high ground, he can see many different types of dinosaur down below and questions how anyone could have been irresponsible enough to have introduced these animals, thus threatening the ecosystem. He is answered by the sound of Booster Gold's voice.
What are you doing here? What have you done?
You're right.
The latter appears and welcomes Green Arrow to his theme park, Booster World, offering to show him around for a discounted price. He picks up Green Arrow in a large bubble generated by his suit and takes him to the entrance, telling him that, in the future, he had got the idea for the theme park from an old movie where dinosaurs were recreated from their DNA. Judging that this would never happen, he had instead gone back to the past to bring dinosaurs to the present in order to make some easy money. As he walks through the park, the dinosaurs are running wild and tearing down the buildings, and Booster reflects that he perhaps ought to have fed them. He drops Green Arrow just as the dinosaurs start to charge at them. Fleeing from a T-Rex, the 2 superheroes jump into water but are pursued by raptors until a large mosasaur closes its jaws about them and is about to swallow. They are saved by Booster's suit, which automatically opens a time-travel wormhole, and they are whisked away. In the distant future that they visit, where cities float in the sky, they encounter a teenager who has the appearance of an evolved dinosaur and realize that Booster's introduction of dinosaurs into the present has changed the future to mankind's detriment. As it runs away screaming for help, alarms go off in the cities and flying police vehicles crewed by dinosaurs appear and fire on the two superheroes. They run until they are cornered, but Booster is able to open another wormhole and they fall in. Arriving at the time when Booster is about to watch the old movie, they see him through the window of his house. Green Arrow decides to cause a power cut to stop the movie from being viewed. He asks the other Booster to blast the circuits, but then begins to consider, out aloud, the moral dilemma of saving the human race at the expense of destroying the dinosaur one. The circuits blow anyway, as Booster has not been listening, leaving the other Booster in the dark and the original dinosaurless timeline restored. The Justice League are holding a meeting in the Watchtower attended by Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, and the Martian Manhunter. By video link, Wonder Woman tells them that she will be unable to attend because she has run into the utterly illogical but harmless Bizarro and needs to keep him occupied to make him abandon his plan of joining the Justice League. Bizarro continually does the opposite of what he actually needs to do. As the other members carry on without her, an alarm sounds and a muscular, human-like figure suddenly crashes through the Watchtower dome to confront them. He introduces himself as the android Amazo and declares his intention of destroying them. The League takes up his challenge and a fight ensues. In succession, each of the League members attack him, but, as his eyes flash intermittently, they are all defeated as Amazo appears to have powers identical to theirs.
A super android that duplicates powers.
Batman realizes that the android can copy their powers if he gets close enough, but Amazo is still apparently overcome when Superman arrives and surprises him. However, recovering immediately, Amazo subdues Superman, absorbing his powers and, having defeated all of the superheroes present, now uses the comms to send signals to the remaining members of the Justice League, instructing them to assemble in the Watchtower. Wonder Woman, still in the company of Bizarro, receives the call and leaves to return to the Watchtower. Bizarro is determined to help her, but decides that he first needs to get support from someone a lot smarter than himself. In the meantime, Amazo has locked up the 5 members of the League in the Watchtower's cells. He tells them that he can also mimic their way of thinking, but at that moment is ensnared by Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. He reveals that his plan is to rule the world by stealing the powers of the entire Justice League. Amazo, using intangibility, breaks free, tying Wonder Woman in her own noose and placing her in a cell. But Bizarro also arrives carrying someone wrapped in a cape. It is Space Cabbie, who has impressed Bizarro in the past when giving travel directions. Amazo contemptuously hurls Cabbie away, but Bizarro saves him. The android confronts Bizarro and copies his powers, but the latter is naively unimpressed and starts a fight.
So where are the keys?
While this rages, the superheroes tell Cabbie to go to the lab to stop the transmission to the other League members. Amazo freezes Bizarro into a block of ice and goes in search of Cabbie. Bizarro breaks free and continues the fight, but it becomes evident that Amazo has copied Bizarro's illogical way of thinking. As the android has a naturally logical mind, he finds it impossible to assimilate Bizarro's thoughts, blows a circuit, and collapses unconscious. Later, as Green Lantern hauls Amazo away in a green box, the remaining Justice Leaguers feel obliged to accept Bizarro into the team, except for Batman, who decides to ask him to stand still while he is inducted, and illogically, Bizarro does the opposite, and flies away.
We appreciate the nightly check-in, Flash.
The Flash is making his nightly visit to a high-security prison and runs around at super speed, checking the prisoners' cells. As he talks to one of the guards, the Joker, dressed as though he has been on vacation in Hawaii, suddenly appears out of thin air and greets Flash before disappearing again through a travel portal. Flash instructs the guard to lock down the prison. Elsewhere, Lex Luthor is in his cell, complaining innocently that he had only built a bomb of ultimate destruction and had not used it, when Joker appears and disposes of the guard. He enters the cell using a travel portal, and Luthor can see that he is holding a mother box. Joker tells him that he has obtained it from Desaad, and, as Flash appears, he vanishes, taking Luthor with him. They're materialized knee-deep in water near a beach. And Joker tells Luthor that he intends to treat him to the best day ever to allow him to get over the debacle with his bomb, but Luthor does not trust him. Joker warns him against going ashore, and when he does, is confronted by an irate Wonder Woman. They are on Paradise Island. Joker grabs him before the superheroine does, and they disappear. Later, in the Watchtower, the Justice League, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Flash, observe them remotely, but only see them harmlessly enjoying themselves in a theme park. Batman, determined to discover Joker's true motives, zooms into his to-do list and sees his next stop is the North Pole. The League move to the Fortress of Solitude, but only find it daubed with graffiti,
Good boy.
as Crypto has already chased off the villainous pair. Returning to the Watchtower, they find that Joker has been there too, but this time Ace has seen him off, and Batman decides to warn other League members to be vigilant. Joker then visits a series of entertainment locations where there happen to be superheroes present. Zatanna in a casino, Cyborg at a racing car circuit, and Green Arrow in an art gallery. Only at the pyramids, where Joker uses the mother box to shoot at Hawkman, does he ask the now bored Luthor where he wants to go, and the latter decides to travel to his secret hideout. There, as he tells Joker about the hidden bomb of ultimate destruction, he realizes too late what the Joker's plan is. The latter, threatening him with the mother box, instructs him to reveal the bomb and start the countdown. Luthor now sees that the places visited have attracted many pursuing superheroes, so that they will all be destroyed in the blast. Duly, all 8 heroes arrive and battle begins, but they are unable to get the better of Joker and his mother box and begin to fall. Luthor dons his battle suit and finishes the rest. But as the countdown ticks down, he changes his mind and, tricking the Joker, knocks him out and stops the bomb. He then surrenders to the recovered Batman and Superman, handing them the mother box. Luthor is returned to his prison cell, thankful for some peace at last, but only until he realizes that the Joker is now his cellmate. Firestorm flies towards the Metropolis Museum to attend the opening ceremony for a new science research center, where the guest of honor is another member of the Justice League, Mr. Terrific. The latter tells the attending crowd that the new building will be the home for his own ingenious invention, the T-spheres. He is already known to Professor Stein, who holds a grudge against him for having stolen his own idea of S-cubes when they were at college together. Firestorm, however, is a big fan and lauds the achievements of Mr. Terrific, much to the disgust of the professor. As Mr. T addresses the crowd, a voice calls out, and the villain Calculator introduces himself. He presses a button on his control panel, which surprisingly allows him to take control of the T-spheres, and they gather around him. Calculator then sends them to attack Mr. Terrific, but the latter uses his athleticism to dodge their shots. Firestorm and Terrific then join together to repulse the spheres and protect the crowd until Calculator leaves, taking the spheres with him. Mr. Terrific thanks his colleague for his help and asks after the professor, whose hostile replies Firestorm does not communicate. Later, using the systems at Star Labs, the two superheroes are still unable to locate the stolen T-spheres. A sudden power cut all across the city impels them to travel to the power station, only to see the spheres shutting down the grid. Terrific assumes this has been done to nullify security systems so that Calculator can help himself to whatever valuables that he wants, and the villain confirms this as he reappears surrounded by the spheres. In the fight that follows, the spheres cause Firestorm to split into the two constituent figures of Ronnie Raymond and Professor Stein. And Ronnie is dragged away before the two can touch and recombine. As Mr. T explains that his devices have hacked into Firestorm's system, the separated professor thinks of a way to trace Ronnie. In Calculator's hideout, the captive Ronnie is trying to distract him, but an alarm warns of the approach of a large flying cube. This carries Mr. Terrific and the Professor and is made up of a large number of S-cubes. These are able to follow the trail of the T-spheres, and Mr. T takes a cube, reprograms it, and keeps it for himself. The hostile spheres attack, and Terrific decoys them away so that Professor Stein can crash the large cube through the wall of the hideout. The professor distracts Calculator to get close enough to Ronnie to make physical contact. Mr. Terrific follows up, pursued by a sphere, but when Calculator presses a button to finish Mr. T, nothing happens. The sphere changes into the cube taken by Terrific, and the latter throws it at Calculator, knocking him down, and he is taken captive. Meanwhile, the professor, up high, jumps down and makes contact with Ronnie, reforming Firestorm in a blaze of fire. Later, as the villain is taken away by the police, Mr. Terrific asks for the professor's help to reprogram the T-spheres so that they can no longer be hacked. The latter now admits that the T-spheres are completely original, but the two continue to bicker over their time as roommates. Superman flies to intercept robbers at a bank in Metropolis who shoot at him with ray guns. After the robbery has been foiled, he and Batman examine one of the captured alien weapons and conclude that it must have some purpose other than to aid a bank heist. Later, the self-centered and opinionated journalist Sid Sharp of the Daily Planet is rushing to cover the story, but finds that his colleague and rival, Clark Kent, has somehow got there first. Clark gives the advice that a good source is essential for a scoop. Returning to the Daily Planet, Sid is told by Jimmy Olsen that Clark is likely to receive tip-offs from his friend Superman. This gives Sid the harebrained idea of dressing his portly figure in a superhero costume and explains to angry editor Perry White that the paper needs its own superhero, Sid, to provide story leads, but Perry does not follow the confused logic. Light years away on planet Apocalypse, Darkseid complains that providing humans with weapons to kill Superman has only resulted in a bank robbery and tells his entourage, Granny Goodness, Desaad, Kanto, and Kalibak, to dispose of Superman. Desaad steps forward to state that the superhero has been located at the Daily Planet and that a squad of parademons should be sent to capture him. At the newspaper, Clark is radioed by Batman, who tells him that the alien weapon originates on Apocalypse, and he goes to a small room to change to Superman, but finds Sid there also changing into, or out of, his costume. At that moment, a boom tube opens in the corridor outside, and parademons arrive to detonate a kryptonite bomb. The blast knocks Clark and Sid on top of one another, and the parademons detect that one of them is Kal-El, Superman, and naturally take the one that is in costume, Sid, before they leave.
Mr. Kent! Sid was just abducted.
Clark wakes to be told of the abduction by Jimmy Olsen. Later, zooming through space, Superman is again contacted by Batman to inform him that Sid was taken to Darkseid's throne room. There, Motormouth Sid Sharp blusters that he is Superman's pal, which encourages Darkseid to have him chained up as bait. Then, when Superman bursts in, he is ambushed by the entourage and sprayed with kryptonite gunk. Weakened, he manages to tell Sid that he needs time to recover, and the latter thinks about what he can do to help. To gain time, he plays on the rivalries of the entourage, telling them not to let Kanto take all the credit for Superman's capture. Sid also tries to switch suspicion onto Desaad, but Darkseid appears and tells them to stop bickering and present him with Superman. Sid continues to stall for time by berating Superman for his failure to rescue him, but the latter is now recovered and punches Darkseid away into the distance. In the battle that follows, the superhero gets the better of the remaining new gods, smashing their weapons. Darkseid returns, shooting red beams from his eyes that track Superman and twist around corners to try to reach him as the latter races to collect Sid. Eventually, Superman snatches a device from Desaad that opens up a boom tube to allow him and Sid to escape, just as the beams destroy the throne room. Back at the Daily Planet, Sid Sharp presents his copy of the story as a scoop, but Perry White rejects it in favor of Clark Kent's version. But Sid is content when he sees that the front page has a message from Superman thanking him for saving his life. Lex Luthor, in his battlesuit, has broken into Star Labs in Metropolis and steals a device while the employees look on helplessly. As he flies away through the city, he dismantles it and inserts a part into his kryptonite radiation emitter, a gun, saying that he now has the weapon to destroy Superman.
For one of us
His way is suddenly blocked by the superhero, but Luthor raises the weapon and fires, hitting Superman. As Luthor looks on in disbelief, There is a flash of light, and the figure of Superman splits into two identical copies, except that one is tinted red and the other blue. They fall to the ground, but soon take off, pursue Luthor, and shoot him down with their combined heat vision. Then, it becomes apparent that they have different and opposite personalities. The blue Superman is good-natured and naive, but the red Superman is bad-natured and devious. The red one wants to beat Luthor to death, and the blue one tries to restrain him. As they fight, Luthor escapes on foot, but only until his path is barred by Wonder Woman. The villain again pulls his gun, shoots, and now Wonder Woman splits into blue and red halves that bicker and fight, though Luthor is knocked down and drops the gun. The opposite Superman halves now show up, and while the two blue superheroes politely escort Luthor to a cell in the Watchtower, their red counterparts take the gun and fly away with a plan to use it for some evil purpose.
Bad red versions of both of them knocked you around, then flew.
In the Watchtower, Green Arrow learns of the preceding events from the captive Luthor, and then goes to join Batman, who has been able to locate the emitter from its radiation signature. He and Green Arrow head off to find it, leaving the two clueless blue superheroes behind. The two red superheroes with the emitter gun are located in an old hideout of Luthor and intend to free the red halves of all the Justice League members. Batman and Green Arrow arrive and become involved in an extended fight with the two reds, but eventually Batman is hit by the ray and splits into blue and red halves. His red half overcomes the blue and then takes charge of the red team, telling them that they can split the rest of the League by routing the emitter's effect through the Watchtower's satellites. After they leave, Green Arrow revives the blue Batman, and they go in pursuit. Back in the Watchtower, the blue Superman and Wonder Woman have been placed in a cell while the red team prepares the satellite links. To stop them, Green Arrow snatches the emitter but is tripped and accidentally shoots Luthor with it in his cell. The latter splits into two, and the red half knocks out the blue, offering his services to the red team.
I've wired the emitter to the Watchtower's power core.
Red Luthor then links the emitter to the Watchtower's system and says he is ready to split the whole of the Justice League. Instead, however, the Watchtower's defensive armament activates and shoots the red superheroes with the emitter ray, with the result that the blue and red halves of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are all reunited into their original selves. Red Luthor apologizes politely for his deceitful behavior. Batman tells the puzzled Green Arrow that the red halves had been aberrations, and in the case of the bad Luthor, it was his good half. The good Luthor turns the emitter on himself, and his joint self is restored. Now, back in his cell, Luthor moans that he has been betrayed by the person that he most trusted, himself. In space, amongst asteroids, Green Lantern is involved in a desperate struggle with the sneering Sinestro. Every attempt by Green Lantern to use his green power ring in attack or defense is bettered by his opponent's yellow one. However, to his assistance comes Justice One, carrying Superman, Wonder Woman, Atom, and the Green Power Battery. As they announce their arrival to Green Lantern, his ring begins to lose its charge, leaving him at the mercy of his foe. He cannot understand how the yellow ring has not lost its charge, too. Leaving Atom at the controls, Superman goes outside to distract Sinestro while Wonder Woman transfers to the Justice 2 fighter. As Superman and the fighter engage the villain, Atom maneuvers Justice 1 to collect Green Lantern. Inside, the latter recharges his ring from the battery, saying that they now need to find out how Sinestro's ring is keeping its charge, and so Atom offers to shrink down and go inside the ring. Passing outside, Atom, protected by a green power ring bubble, is propelled towards Sinestro, who is engaged in combat and reduces in size to disappear unnoticed into the ring. Still in contact with the other superheroes, he suffers a series of worrying hallucinations.
How's it going, old buddy? Better?
But Green Lantern tells him that it is the yellow power ring playing on his fears. Atom relaxes his mind and finds himself in a crystalline structure. Up ahead, he sees a yellow lantern battery suspended over a yellow spider-like creature. Green Lantern, from Adam's description, identifies the creature as Despotellis and says he is a member of the Sinestro Corps, and also that the battery must be keeping Sinestro's ring charged. Adam increases in size to square up to Despotellis, but the latter uses its own ring to crush Adam in a shrinking yellow cage. The other superheroes listen to his frenzied cries for help, and then silence. Sinestro, gloating over the demise of their colleague, grips the three stunned superheroes with multiple yellow arms to finish them off. However, inside the ring, Despotellis still hears the voice of Adam but cannot see him.
Yep, that's gonna hurt.
I really gotta thank you.
Adam tells it that he is small enough to rearrange its molecules, and so Despotellis begins to sag before collapsing completely while the power battery falls, deactivated. Outside, Sinestro's ring suddenly loses power, leaving him defenseless, and Green Lantern, not taking any chances, hits the villain with a speeding green freight train and smashes him onto an asteroid. To the superhero's surprise, Adam emerges alive from the ring and brings a captive Despotellis. The others dispute Adam's description of the weird creature, each humorously offering their own in turn. Firestorm is late for a meeting of the Justice League and hurriedly flies towards the Watchtower. When he arrives, however, there is no one else around, and his mind's counsel, the professor, reminds him that there ought to have been someone on duty.
They're all offline.
He is unable to contact any of the League using the comms, and the professor suggests that they should visit one of them. Firestorm flies off to the Daily Planet. Locating Clark Kent in his office, the latter insists that he is not Superman. Firestorm assures him that he has superpowers and takes him outside and drops him from the top of the building. Clark does not know how to fly and hits the ground, shaking Metropolis. To his own amazement, he survives and begins to believe that he is Superman, but still cannot remember it. The professor suggests that they gather more examples of forgetful superheroes. Later, in the Watchtower, Firestorm has managed to assemble Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince in addition to Clark, but they are not cooperative. Firestorm uses his powers to change their clothes into the costumes of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but while he is trying to teach them how to act as superheroes, a news broadcast tells of looting at a Metropolis shopping precinct by stone monsters accompanied by the sorcerer Felix Faust.
Excuse me, buddy! I know I'm supposed
Firestorm flies to confront Faust, while the three amnesiac superheroes take a cab. At the precinct, as Firestorm makes fun of him, Faust, riding a self-balancing scooter, is surprised to see the Justice League arrive because he thought that he had taken their memories. He orders the stone monsters, he calls one a golem, to attack them, but the superheroes are still not confident enough to use their powers and start running from their foes. Firestorm intervenes and transforms some of the monsters into harmless cars and scooters, but Faust responds and casts a spell on the floating Firestorm, bringing him down for a closer look. He realizes that the superhero's dual minds have stopped him losing his memory, so he produces a glowing purple orb which contains the memories of the other superheroes, and casts a spell which adds both of Firestorm's as well. However, on hearing Faust and seeing the orb, the other three superheroes begin to remember what has happened and recover their abilities dealing with the remaining monsters. Faust attempts to escape on his scooter after the superheroes demand the orb, but is caught by Superman. Before Faust can cast a spell to use it, the orb is lassoed by Wonder Woman, who smashes it to recover the lost memories. This is just in time to save the hopelessly confused Firestorm and Professor at an isolated prison patrolled by hovering drones to transfer his mind. Using the one that goes flat across his face as his mask, Mr. Terrific has hacked open his box and that of Bat to discovering Mr. Mind's plan. The Joker broadcasts a televised message to Gotham City in which he shows that he has captured Batman. However, he is in a sporting mood. His message for any superheroes to locate and release the captive before he sets the hounds on him. Duo of Wonder Woman and Green Arrow accost various minor crooks and attempt to beat out of them the location of the Joker, but this achieves nothing. The Riddler, and he offers his services to help save Batman.
Enigma Consulting.
The two superheroes do not trust him, so Riddler puts his hand in the lasso of truth and says he must stop Joker for stealing his gimmick. The dull superheroes struggle to see it, but have no alternative but to follow Riddler. He leads them to Arkham Asylum, where he opens the high-security cell of Solomon Grundy, and, while he distracts the monster with a childish toy, finds the clue left by Joker that suggests they should go to the nightclub of the Penguin and acquire a particular umbrella. At the Iceberg Lounge, Penguin is not happy to find them sneaking around and sets his henchmen on them while he opens which Wonder Woman and Green Arrow defeat the villains, enabling Riddler to seize Penguin's umbrella. He shows the superheroes the clues inside it that suggest they should go to a show at the Institute of Art. When the three enter, the pop art exhibition consists of gigantic examples of everyday objects. The Joker welcomes them and they see Batman suspended upside down, close to a big statue of Lady Justice that holds a large sword upright. Green Arrow becomes bound up by one of Joker's weapons and Wonder Woman is warned to stay still, else she will trigger the fall of the sword which will decapitate Batman. This still leaves Riddler free to engage in fisticuffs and a war of words with Joker, accusing him of stealing his ideas. Eventually he pins Joker down, but the latter gives him a riddle to solve and warns that a microphone nearby will trigger the sword.
Smarter than he looks. So let me get this straight.
Riddler cannot resist and gives the solution, but, as the sword falls, a freed Green Arrow shoots at the rope and Wonder Woman catches her falling colleague. The arrow finishes by knocking down the fleeing Joker. Later, outside, as Batman hauls Joker away, Riddler learns that all of this had merely taken place to get back at him for having once eaten Joker's donut in prison. It is nighttime in the streets of Metropolis, and Gorilla Grodd is on the rampage accompanied by the gigantic chimpanzee Titano. Grodd sits on top of the chimp inside a compartment with a canopy and controls the huge animal against its will through a helmet on his head. Stargirl appears and protects civilians from cars that are hurtling through the air, but she has to call on Superman for help.
Thanos a chimp, Stargirl.
He soon arrives, but, at Grodd's command, Titano shoots kryptonite beams from its eyes, and Superman crashes to the ground. Stargirl uses her staff to lift him away to safety before he can be hit again. Recovered, Superman flies away to find a solution to the beams, leaving Stargirl to clear the streets. They are already deserted and, to complicate matters, villainous. Harley Quinn uses this as an opportunity to raid a jewelry store. As she helps herself to some diamonds, Stargirl smashes through the door, expelled from a disturbance outside. The latter is unsure of which problem to deal with first, but then decides to catch Harley in a force field. When Titano puts its hand through the door to find Stargirl, it grabs Harley instead and takes her outside where she greets Grodd, but he shows no interest. She then recognizes Titano from an earlier time when it was a lot smaller.
Cease that idiotic simian offensive song.
But Grodd interrupts, and the giant chimp hurls her away into the distance. She is caught by Superman, now wearing a lead-lined suit, who puts her down on a rooftop and flies to deal with Grodd. As Stargirl listens, Harley relates that she knew Titano when she was studying animal psychology at Star Labs and would care for the normal-sized chimp while it was being trained for a space flight.
It was up to me!
Later, while in space, it collided with a kryptonite meteorite and transformed into Titano. Superman, no longer affected by the beams, becomes involved in an extended fight with Titano. He cannot break through the canopy to get to Grodd, so he goes for a longer run up to the North Pole and, returning at speed, manages to crack it. Grodd responds by getting Titano to hurl a series of trucks which tear open Superman's protective suit and then paralyzes him with the kryptonite beams.
Superman!
Stargirl, to save him, leaves Harley and hurls the trucks back at Titano, eventually breaking open the canopy and ejecting Grodd into the street. Titano, freed from control, takes the compartment off his head and attacks Grodd, throwing him through the air to land conveniently in the police wagon. Titano is then assailed by police helicopters with orders to shoot to kill. It clambers over buildings to escape and picks up Harley before ascending to the top of the Daily Planet building. A recovered Superman intervenes to stop the helicopters, and Stargirl brings an oversized teddy bear, an advertising prop, and sings to finally calm Titano. Superman also stops Harley from escaping, and she is put into the wagon with Grodd, where she offers psychiatric counseling to the now self-doubting gorilla. Superman and Wonder Woman arrive in the Watchtower in response to a call from Batman, who shows them a satellite recording of a solar flare. As they watch, they see the figure of General Zod appear, who has been released from the Phantom Zone by the event. Batman complains that they would have known this earlier if Booster Gold had been on his watch, and switches the display to show Booster fast asleep. The superheroes anticipate that Zod may try to use their Phantom Zone projector to release his two companions,
There's something at Star Labs that might help him.
and also might make use of a Kryptonian prism held at Star Labs. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman head over there, leaving the now-awake Booster behind. At Star Labs, Zod breaks in and takes the prism, in which he can see the other two villains. Then the three superheroes arrive, and a fight ensues. Eventually, Batman uses the projector on Zod, and its beam refracts through the prism, bathing everyone in an odd energy. Zod dematerializes but is still present, though invisible to the others. The prism is left behind, and the superheroes take it back to the Watchtower. There, looking in the prism, which is a window into the zone, they can see two of the villains, but not Zod. Suddenly, the three superheroes begin to fade and become intangible so that they can barely touch anything or speak to anyone. Superman says that they are phasing out of existence and will soon be in the Phantom Zone. They need to get someone else to use the projector to unphase them. At that point, Booster comes in with pizza and sits down and starts to eat. He cannot see or hear the others who are trying to get his attention.
It's all for me, baby!
With their remaining tangibility, they make a series of attempts to get the scatterbrained Booster to respond, video warning message, flashing Morse code, writing on a mirror, but he shows more interest in wearing their spare costumes. Finally, they leave a trail of candy to a dollar bill on the projector and stand in the path of its beam. But, as Booster unintentionally triggers the projector, General Zod, who had phased out earlier, appears and absorbs the beam. He is restored to normal and, knocking Booster aside, fires the projector at the prism, which frees the other two Kryptonians.
Batman?
Now, finally, Booster can see Batman through the prism and, reading his lips, carries out his plan. Turning to Zod, Booster asks to be united with his colleagues in the zone, but, as the beam is fired at him, he raises the prism in its path and the three superheroes are released, though he is sent to the zone himself. A lengthy fight then follows between heroes and villains, with Zod trying to use the projector to dispose of his opponents, but Superman uses some reflective material to send the beam back at the villains and, defeated, they vanish into the Phantom Zone. Finally, though the superheroes can see Booster in the prism, they show no inclination to release him. At a stage show in a casino, Mr. Miracle performs his magic act. Providing his own narration, he is lowered into a water tank full of electric eels. Afterwards, he demands applause, but is only met with the clapping of a lone member of the audience and dejectedly walks from the stage.
Impressive. Can we...
Backstage, a deep voice calls to him. It is Batman, but Mr. Miracle tries to ignore him. Batman insists that he accompany him to Apocalypse, and when the superhero makes various attempts to detain him, lassoing with a rope, headlock, Miracle shows his skill as an escapologist and breaks free. He then uses a small sphere to produce a distracting laser light show with music, and vanishes. Making his way to another venue where he is the supporting act for Zatanna, Miracle is again accosted backstage by Batman but still breaks free. Then, another voice calls out, "It is Granny Goodness with two menacing companions, the female Furies." Batman, knowing she has come for Mr. Miracle, insists he will handle him, but Granny disagrees and a fight ensues.
Now that's what I call an entrance!
This lasts some time and spills over onto the stage, but eventually Miracle's abilities as illusionist and escapologist overcome the opposition. Then, the audience of the packed house breaks into applause, and Miracle receives the adulation he craves. As the antagonists recover, Miracle again uses the sphere and escapes to a dressing room under cover of a smokescreen. Batman still insists that Mr. Miracle go to Apocalypse because Darkseid holds his girlfriend, Big Barda, as a hostage. Miracle reveals that he has the part of the anti-life equation in his sphere that Darkseid needs to complete his life void machine, which will reduce beings across the universe to mindless shells under his control. On Apocalypse, Darkseid knows that Batman has Miracle and opens a boom tube to bring them there. Arriving, they see Barda chained above the throne with Granny Goodness nearby. It transpires that Miracle is Darkseid's adopted son and has fled into exile with part of the anti-life equation. As Miracle shows Darkseid the sphere, by sleight of hand he takes the latter's mother box and opens a boom tube that sucks Darkseid away.
You could have boom tube.
Barda is released and Batman insists on destroying the life void machine, but this only allows Granny and her two cohorts to attempt to get the sphere. There follows a long battle with the sphere changing hands several times, but the three superheroes come out on top. Then Darkseid suddenly returns with a crash, which knocks the sphere up in the air, and he catches it. With Parademons and the Furies closing in, Mr. Miracle opens a boom tube, and the three superheroes escape back to Earth. Darkseid lets them go as he is impatient to use the sphere to complete the life void machine and subject the universe. However, the result is just a show of laser lights and music. In the Watchtower, Batman holds up the real sphere, showing he can do sleight of hand, too. Batman wakes to find himself in the Batmobile but cannot remember why he is there. Booster Gold contacts him on the video display and reminds him that they are in Metropolis and have been involved for days in a street battle with multiple supervillains. As Batman drives through the streets to join his colleague, he sees Green Lantern overhead in combat with Black Adam and Gorilla Grodd, but then witnesses him smash into a building and explode. Carrying on, Batman finds Booster in a fight with Harley Quinn and intervenes to dispose of her, but is then assailed by General Zod. Booster steps in and deals with the villain easily, much to Batman's surprise, and he senses something is wrong. Cyborg appears, pursued by Parasite, and is overcome. So the Batmobile knocks down the villain and drives away with Cyborg on board. Batman calls the other members, Superman and Wonder Woman, so they can all meet at Star Labs. Examining the unconscious Cyborg there, he detects something unusual and removes the human half of Cyborg's face to reveal that he is a robot. The other four superheroes do the same to establish they are all robots and are only programmed to think like the real Justice League. Suddenly, a squad of parademons, from Apocalypse, bursts in and a fight ensues. But the superheroes are programmed not to harm their opponents and have to flee the building. They run down the street but come to the edge of a precipice. The city is seen to be a detached piece of landscape floating in a void that looks like a computer simulation, and Wonder Woman says they must be in a pocket dimension. The superheroes go into hiding as the parademons reappear, who are in turn signaled by Darkseid telling them to bring the heroes to the command center for reprogramming once they are found. When they leave, the superheroes realize that this whole place is just an experiment to gather data to be used against the real Justice League, and they decide to stop Darkseid's plan.
No, it's what the real Booster would do.
They go to the Daily Planet building, the command center, but there are 8 robot supervillains on guard outside, the 5 aforementioned plus Bane, Poison Ivy, and Kanjar Row. Batman is able to send an alert to the real Justice League before the brief battle royal that follows, but the 5 good robots get inside while the bad ones stay outside as they have been programmed to do.
But they might.
Inside, the heroes are assailed by more parademons, and Booster decoys them so the other 4 can take the lift to the control room. They, joined by Booster, go in and are confronted by Darkseid, but they are programmed not to harm him. However, Cyborg is able to sabotage the controlling system, destroying the test data. The pocket dimension begins to unravel and disappear as Darkseid escapes through a boom tube, leaving the 5 robot heroes facing oblivion. But another portal opens and the real Batman ushers them in and takes them to the Watchtower. There, the real League thanks the robots for foiling Darkseid's plan and offers to find a suitable planet for them to continue their existence as genuine superheroes. The robot booster begins an embarrassing celebration, with the real one denying he would ever act that way. Outside the Star Labs building in Metropolis, Lex Luthor, wearing a new purple battlesuit, has somehow frozen the security guards in position, and even their gunshots are halted in midair. However, the Justice League are nearby, and Wonder Woman, Hawkman, and Green Lantern intervene, but are also frozen in mid-flight by Luthor. Cyborg is bombarded with rays that cause him to age rapidly so that he becomes too weak to continue. The villain is now free to enter the building, threatening to dominate the world. To explain this situation, we see an hour earlier crowds lining the streets of Metropolis to witness a charity race between Flash and Superman to determine who is the fastest. While sponsor Bruce Wayne looks on, reporter Lois Lane interviews both superheroes and tells the audience that the two competitors are fitted with devices to track their progress. When the race starts, both of them dash through the streets and out to sea, but neither is able to gain a lead. Elsewhere, in a secret mountain hideout, Lex Luthor is told by villain Kronos that a suit controlling speed and time is building up Speed Force and will be fully charged in a few seconds. Luthor compliments him but suddenly stuns him with a ray blaster. Pressing a button on the suit, it automatically moves to fit on him, and he tests it by zapping a passing eagle, freezing it in mid-air. Kronos recovers, but Luthor beams rays from his suit that cause Kronos to descend into extreme old age. Luthor leaves him and races out across the landscape at super speed. And Bruce Wayne notices him. Luthor catches up with the speedsters at sea and overtakes them, and Flash realizes that Luthor must have connected to the Speed Force. Luthor comes back and tells them he has total time control and can both accelerate and stop time. Racing ahead to solid ground, he creates a halted time barrier at which Flash stops but Superman smashes into. Luthor warns them that he can stop time for anyone who gets in his way and then leaves at speed, arriving at Star Labs just before the earlier action with the Justice League. Flash and Superman follow up through Metropolis and arrive at the labs to find it surrounded by a stop-time barrier and with the 3 League members hanging in the air. Superman cannot break through but can see inside. Everything is frozen except the computers which Luthor is using to hack into defense systems worldwide. Flash also cannot vibrate through it as he would do normally. Suddenly, the Batplane descends and lands, and Batman, Bruce Wayne, tells the superheroes that their race was rigged so that their speed energy would transmit through the tracking devices to the villain's hideout and from where he has brought the confused Kronos. Batman reprograms Superman's device to transmit to Flash's and tells him to run, which he does. Flash becomes charged up with extra speed force, vibrates through the barrier into the building, and rushes to where Luthor is about to start a nuclear war. The 2 speedsters tussle until Luthor's suit runs out of charge, and Flash stops the countdown. The barrier around the building disappears, and the frozen and aged superheroes all recover as well as Kronos. Flash and Superman then have a final race to see who can get Luthor to prison the quickest. When Justice 1 passes overhead, he is joined by Batman, Wonder Woman, and Red Tornado, who float down and help to finish off the armored army. Shazam pursues the fleeing Faust and captures him, handing him over to the other 3 superheroes. While all this is going on, the 5th-dimensional imp Mr. Mxyzptlk happens to be floating above the scene as a spectator and takes notice of an aging, portly man who is directing civilians to safety while cheering on Shazam from the sidelines. The imp considers him as a target for his usual mischievousness.
We should get back to the RV. Let the Justice League take over from here.
Shazam recognizes him as Dudley H. Dudley, his uncle, but Batman and Wonder Woman see him as a civilian and ask him to keep clear of the trouble. Shazam escorts him away. Later, in Uncle Dudley's motorhome, Shazam changes to his everyday alias Billy Batson and asks Dudley, for his own safety, to stay out of harm's way in future, causing his uncle to look very dejected. But after Billy leaves, Dudley hears a noise coming from his bathroom and goes to see a diminutive figure rising from the toilet bowl. It is Mr. Mzizptok, dressed as a wizard and pretending to be the one who gave Shazam his powers. He says Dudley will have the powers of a superhero as soon as he says the magic word, bamboozle. Dudley says it, and with a flash of lightning, transforms into a costumed superhero, or an aging, portly one at least. Mxyzptlk directs Captain Bamboozle to go out and bamboozle the world. Dudley flies out over the city and attempts to intervene in various emergencies, a cat in a tree, an apartment fire, a bank robbery. But his inexperience causes mayhem. Shazam arrives and is told by Dudley that the superpowers were given to him by Shazam's wizard. Suspicious of this, Shazam takes Dudley to see Batman in the street nearby, who is able to build a composite picture of the wizard from Dudley's description. No sooner have they established that it is Mxyzptlk and that they need to get him to say his name backwards, Wonder Woman and Red Tornado arrive to indicate a new problem, a gigantic cat terrorizing the streets. Mxyzptlk floats above to enjoy the view of the chaos that his cat is creating. The superheroes move to deal with it, but Shazam tells Dudley not to interfere as that is exactly what Mxyzptlk wants. Dudley, not happy, mutters that he knows how to deal with the imp. After the cat rubs against buildings, damaging them, and chases trucks in the street, Shazam and Wonder Woman grapple with it unsuccessfully. Batman attempts to preoccupy it by projecting a small bat signal down onto the street that the cat chases. In the meantime, Dudley has gone back to directing the public, but Mxyzptlk, as the wizard, interrupts him and tells him to go and help get rid of Catzilla. Dudley agrees and lists 3 powers that he will use: food power, muscle power, and Mxyzptlk power. Mr. Mxyzptlk protests that he did not give him the last one, but on saying it, he disappears. Catzilla and Captain Bamboozle both return to normal. The Justice League commend Uncle Dudley for the heroism shown in ridding them of the imp, but he insists it was all down to his power to bamboozle. The TV news presents an unfamiliar view of the world. We are informed that the West has been invaded by the forces of a militaristic Soviet-style state called Khaznia and are spearheaded by a superpowered character called the Superman. Moving on to entertainment, we are told about Kara Zor-El, the star of a popular reality TV show who is from Krypton, has superpowers and wears a Supergirl outfit, but otherwise only seems interested in her business ventures and her appearance. The presenter just laughs after he considers that these two super characters could unite in the cause of justice. At a promotional event, Kara steps out of a limousine onto the red carpet and basks in the attention of fans, reporters, and photographers. In the crowd, a young woman addresses her as Supergirl and asks for help. Yet Kara only dimly recognizes that name. Out steps her diminutive and garrulous agent Morty, who is a lightly disguised Mr. Mxyzptlk, and he tells her to forget about helping people and focus on her adoring public. Kara agrees, but the Khaznian Superman descends suddenly and smashes her limousine, plants the enemy flag, and flies off.
Oh, I can do something. I can teach.
A livid Kara decides to go and deal with him, and the duplicitous Morty eggs her on as she flies away. In front of the Daily Planet building, Kara confronts the Khaznian, and there follows a back-and-forth fight between them. In the middle of this, a time portal opens, Booster Gold steps out and quietly watches the fight continue. He notices Morty nearby and tells him that he has been away in his retreat beyond space-time, probably Vanishing Point, but on returning finds a differently dressed Superman and Supergirl fighting one another, and that the Justice League does not exist. He stops the fight and, speaking to the Khaznian Superman, tells him that his opponent is his cousin, and they are both from Krypton and Kansas. The last name jogs Superman's memory as he remembers being with Supergirl on the Kent farm in Kansas on a recent occasion where they wondered if their lives would have been different if they had not come from Smallville. But Mr. Mxyzptlk had overheard and spoke to them from a television showing a phony program called the MXY Zone. He told them he would test their belief that their place of origin makes little difference by sending one of them to joyless Khaznia and the other to shallow Hollywood. Both the Kasnian Superman and Booster now realize that Morty is the imp. Mexweisptolk changes to his normal appearance and drops the Daily Planet's globe onto Booster's head in revenge for exposing his scheme. Now Kara is convinced too, and the Kasnian will no longer allow Mexweisptolk's mischief to continue, giving a saying in his own language as his reason. Mexweisptolk can understand it except for the last word, which he repeats back, but, as it is his name backwards, he vanishes and the world returns to normal. Restored to the Kent farm, Superman and Supergirl can remember everything, and Superman assures he would never do those things in real life. Supergirl accepts this and hugs him lovingly. Then Booster, who has survived, appears from the house but disappears again to avoid having to explain where their pie has gone. In the Watchtower, a boom tube is opened and 5 members of the Justice League enter: Wonder Woman, Flash, Hawkman, Martian Manhunter, and Cyborg, with 3 more about to join them. Batman says they are ready to go as Superman explains to Supergirl the need to intercept the Red Lantern Corps before they reach Earth. Plastic Man appears, expecting to go with them, but Superman insists that he stay behind and finds him a suitable job, following Krypto with a pooper scooper. While outside with Krypto, Plastic Man sees a blue cat clinging to some flotsam out to sea. He rescues it and takes it inside to get it something to eat. While he is gone, the cat starts to wander and makes its way to another part of the Watchtower, followed by Krypto. Arriving at the control panel for the boom tube, the cat presses a pendant on its collar, causing a projection of Atrocitus to appear. The latter instructs the cat to carry out a plan and, to avoid detection, not to use its power ring. The cat jumps up onto the control panel and initiates a countdown to open a boom tube. As Krypto chases the cat away, Plastic Man returns with a cat litter box and cancels the countdown. Blaming Krypto, he takes the cat away to the kitchen. Plastic Man presents a series of dishes which the cat has to eat to avoid suspicion. When it tries to sneak away, Krypto bars its way, but the Superdog is blamed for a broken dish. Plastic Man takes the bloated cat away, but when it is desperate to use the litter box, he decides that it needs to eat more. While he is gone, Atrocitus again insists that it activate the boom tube, but as the cat makes for the controls, Krypto intervenes and a fight follows. When Plastic Man returns, he sees the control panels in flames and locks Krypto in a room with artificial red sunlight. Returning to the cat, he asks it what it wants to do now, and it responds by putting its power ring onto its tail to become the hostile Dex Star. Shooting red bolts from its mouth, Plastic Man is hit, melting into a puddle on the floor. Captive Krypto now activates the distress signal on his collar, which is received by Streaky in Metropolis, who flies out to the Watchtower. Dex Star, still desperate for the litter box, moves to activate the boom tube, but Streaky arrives and a fight follows between the 2 cats, which bursts through walls, releasing Krypto. Dex Star brings the roof down on them and returns to activate the boom tube, which appears in the sky outside. Krypto and Streaky recover and, while Krypto joins in battle with the feline foe, Streaky flies outside to intercept the Red Lanterns before they can exit the portal. Both super pets put up a brave fight, but are eventually overcome. Only now is Dex Star free to use the litter box and sits inside. A hand appears and removes the power ring from the cat's tail before the entire box transforms into the revived Plastic Man with Dex Star trapped inside him. Krypto shuts down the portal, causing the Red Lanterns to be sucked back inside. Later, Batman, Superman, and Supergirl return, realizing that they have been useless dupes. While the boastful Plastic Man says that trapping the foe in the litter box was. Booster Gold is at a book signing event at Gotham Books for his autobiography, but the fans only complain that Batman is not there. This is interrupted by a woman in a red superheroine's costume who announces herself as Red Velvet, but Booster does not recognize her. Using a red power ring, she targets him with a ray blast, and Booster shields himself with a protective bubble. As she continues to shoot at him, she says she wants his attention but then disappears, leaving Booster standing in the smoldering ruins of the bookshop. Later, in the Watchtower, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Arrow are questioning Booster about the Mystery Woman when Red Velvet suddenly appears from a time travel portal. She addresses Booster, asking him if he has received her present before blasting him again. Just before she vanishes, Booster realizes she must be the Margot that he knows.
Our marriage, and Margot repeated the Ministron 3000's words?
As the superheroes consider what gift she is likely to have sent, the volcano on which the Watchtower rests causes it to shudder. Booster says that Red Velvet could have caused this by going back in time, but the 4 League members have to run for the Justice 1 hangar when the Watchtower begins to crumble away. Managing to scramble into Justice 1 as it falls, they accelerate and clear the volcano just before it erupts, destroying the Watchtower. In flight, the superheroes demand that Booster tells them who Margot is, and that Booster must have married Margot after all. At this point, Red Velvet also appears, declaring that Booster was a worthless husband before continuing to shoot at him. Batman disables her with an electric shock, and she is caught by Booster. However, Margot has been listening and walks out, throwing the ring away. At the same time, the ring on Red Velvet's finger disappears, and she fades out of existence in Booster's arms. Broken, he is left calling out Margot's name.
The Watchtower was destroyed?
You know, if I've said it once...
Later, in the Watchtower, in the corrected timeline, Wonder Woman and Green Arrow cannot remember the recent events. When Batman tries to console Booster for his loss, the latter suddenly perks up and asks for the number of Giganta. So that will be it from us. If you enjoyed the video, let us know which character was your favorite. Also, do not forget to leave us a link and subscribe to our channel for similar content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next one.